There's been a lot of mixed messages when it comes to the W14 and Mercedes as a whole. This is a painful conversation to already be having this early. But I'm unsure because I feel like everyone's unsure of where we feel like Mercedes is this season. Is it just like blow it up and start over? Do we upgrade, massive upgrades, little upgrades? Toto's blow the cost cap. I don't know what the answer is here, but lots of different words coming out of Mercedes in general, and I just don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah, and then like in the mix, there's a bunch of reports from I'll call less than reputable news sources. And so I genuinely like my takeaway from Mercedes leaving that race is I have no idea what's going on. Can someone tell me what's actually going on? Because just what's going on?
But I don't think anyone is able to do that at Mercedes or kind of anywhere in F1. There were plenty of moments this weekend that I was just like, "Oh, what's happening here?" I made
Sounds
a podium.
like you have a podium.
Yes, I have a
Yes.
podium of my
Yes.
top three. What moments of this weekend? There were so many that like I could have had probably a top 10, but I did get it down to just a P3 to a P1.
Ooh. All right. Wait. Let me give you.
I was So my P3 for what's happening right now when all of the carbon or all of the material was flying off Charles's car at the beginning of Q1. It was almost immediately like, what is happening here? Ferrari can't even keep it together in the figurative and literal sense. It was a foreshadowing of future events, unfortunately for Charles. Then we have for P2, Lando making 6 pit stops.
When we get to the misery corner of this like race discussion, I cannot wait to talk about that one.
Just so much happened with McLaren, and it just felt, commentators were not giving enough context. I'm just watching all of the data tracking, and Lando is stopping so often.
Hey, he had no tire deg.
Right, more problems and things, but it was again, I was just a what? And to probably no surprise to anyone at all, my top, what's happening this moment of the Bahrain GP, Esty Bestie's penalty hat trick. This boy got 3 penalties. Penalties on penalties on penalties. And then they just gave up. They were like, we're done. We can't. So when it could not get worse for Esty Bestie, it did. Numerous times. And those are the 3 moments where I really felt like, what is going on?
Mercedes didn't make your what podium. Which reminds me of a podium I brought, though, that did involve Mercedes.
Please share.
Top reality TV show moments of the F1 weekends. Everything Alonso said on the radio.
Alonso had a great radio. It was definitely a little spicy this weekend.
P2, George Russell deciding that Max is going to win 100% of the races this year.
Boo!
What a quote.
That's it. I'm not.
And P1 of reality TV show moments of the weekend was Toto ending the Mercedes season before the race even started. It is so dramatic to just say, it's done, we're done, no more. And all that had happened was qualifying in a 23 race season.
Just sad. There's so much time left. Everyone needs to just, take a breath.
least functional tech bits of the week.
I know what to do.
P3, Ferrari batteries. Did any of them have their phones charged? P2, just McLaren. Everything about the McLaren. Not even just the car, McLaren. Yes.
Oh, sad.
And P1, all the wheel brows. I don't understand how this is an issue through testing. They're just flying everywhere. I think collectively, everyone needs to develop better wheel brows at this point. When it just went flying off the Ferrari in qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
Again? Okay.
Oh, what is that? What was that? Oh, there it goes. There's the car.
McLaren did no preseason testing because they just had to sit there strengthening their wheel brows. Which, I don't understand. I'm pretty sure Williams also had a wheel brow issue over the weekend. It's just, I don't know what it is about how teams developed that part of the car this week, but
it definitely really, I don't know. It was falling apart everywhere, left and right. Which actually leads to another one of my podiums, or inspired one of my podiums. Yes,
chat about before we wrap up race talk.
I have one more, just because it was some of my favorite quotes for the weekend. Looking at different radios, different interviews, post-race press conferences. There was just a bunch. So my honorary mention is Alex's post-race as soon as he finds out that he did get points in the first race. He is so happy, and it's all enjoyment, and everyone is just like, yay, we did it. So we love Alex in the points, we love Williams in the points, but we really love Alex in the points. My P3 quote of the week is, surprisingly, a radio from Fernando Alonso, but it is his comment at the end of the race talking about how Lance is his hero, because honestly, after learning everything that Lance went through this week, he is also mine, or last couple of weeks. It's unbelievable. So shout out to Alonso for recognizing Lance's effort, especially in that moment when it could have been all about him. My P2, and I'm putting this at a P2, and it's not P1 because I am literally going to hope alarm myself, and especially after a lot of the discussion that we have, is Toto's quote from this past weekend of, even if I need to push him, being Lewis, around the track to get to the 8th, I'm going to do everything that's needed. So again, all of this back and forth commentary all weekend. This one was really specific, but also a great image of Toto. I'm imagining Toto literally pushing Lewis around in like a wheelbarrow. Exactly, because that's what it feels like. And this is the vibe that I am also in. And my P1 favorite quote from the Bahrain GP weekend is post-race press conference, Checo, "It's nice to see 3 Red Bulls on the podium." End quote. And I'm going to leave that there. No further context. But my top 3 favorite quotes of the week. Saudi Arabian GP podiums.
Yes.
What's your first podium?
So I have 2. I need to do them together. It's moments that made me very sad this weekend. And then I'm going to group that with moments that actually made me smile this weekend. I don't like to
probably like the sad one should have been like wah wah wah.
Yeah. Yep. I didn't want to just talk about the things that made me sad. So I'll start with P3, moments that made me sad, is the announcement that Angela is no longer going to be in the paddock with Lewis. Yeah, maybe we should use the wah wah wah.
I know. I was like, that didn't feel right. Yeah, big bummer.
Yeah, I was sad. She is, while there are so many amazing women working in the paddock, because of the time she spends standing next to Lewis, she is one of the most visual on TV, like, examples of women working in the paddock. So, show more women on the pit wall. But moments that made me happy, P3. Alonso's social media post.
unhinged.
Amazing. Amazing. Keep doing it. I think he is doing social media better than the 20-somethings in the paddock right now.
I agree. As soon as he hit the gritty, I was like, this is it.
Yeah. Someone there understands. All right, moments that made me sad, P2. The time I spent calculating just how much faster the Red Bull is than everyone else. But moments that made me happy, P2, was all the videos of the Ferrari drivers drawing portraits of each other. Amazing content.
A+.
All right. P1, moments that made me very sad this weekend. Watching Lance slowly DNF. Finally has a fast car. Unfair.
So sad. So sad. And then scary when he just couldn't exit properly.
Right. Well, and then, like, we still don't really know what happened, and there was, like, fire, but I don't know. All right. But, ending on a high note, moments that made me very happy this weekend. P1, well, it's a tie. After all of this chaos, the Mercedes is still tied for 2 in the constructors. And that's tied for P1 with Lewis's black outfit on Saturday. Yeah, I have a Ferrari podium, which is Ferrari moments that signaled to me that it was going to be a bad weekend.
Oh, gosh. Oh, no. Let's get started.
All right, this one has an honorable mention. When I ran the race pace simulation for FP2. I
feel like I gotta use sad trumpet for these two.
All right, first on the podium, P3. When I identified around halfway through Saturday that they were only posting good photos of Carlos. Yeah.
I will not post sad noises with good pictures of Carlos.
I was like, wow, these are all really good photos. And then I went, oh no, there's no like weird, bad taken, silly. What? It was a bad sign. I wasn't happy.
Actions.
P2, when they announced Charles's penalty, like on Wednesday before the race.
Oh, yeah. Right. Race 2.
Right, great. I went, oh, okay, not going to be a good weekend. And then P1 was when we got back-to-back days with cold tub thirst trap videos of both of the drivers. That I was like, wow, all right, damage control is going on right now.
It was the perfect example of, look over there! To like what was going to happen that weekend.
I just love to imagine that Ferrari's in a PR meeting and they're like, all right, what are we going to do this week that's going to like keep morale high? And the social media person has to raise their hand and be like, we'll post 2 videos, one of each driver in the cold tub before the race. Like, what kind of, like, that's just how I imagine and dream the conversation to go.
Right. And I just like to imagine that it's actually Fred who's recording the whole thing. And like, Charles, get in the bathtub. And it's a lot funnier when you think about it that way. And that's how I will just choose to imagine that whole scenario went down.
Alanis this week, or a couple days ago, tweeted that she's like, it's never been clear that Ferrari has a number 1 driver because Charles Leclerc gets an entire film crew and a high-res video of him in his cold tub, and they just hand Carlos the phone, and they're like, yeah, record a selfie.
Take this old rubber ducky and record a selfie and then drop the phone in the bathtub. Worded it as biggest wah moments of the weekend.
Wait, where's... Okay, I found the sad trumpet. I'm ready for this. Let's go.
That's great. Okay. I tried to not just make it a whole podium of DNFs because it just felt like too easy, but I will give the honorable mention. I feel like we're about to get here. Honorable mention, Alex Albon. Sad, frustrated radio, and he just deserves better. And I love you, Alex. Thanks for using the right toner. So now I have P3 of my womp womp moments. Man, Yuki. Just Yuki was so close to points. And
Really?
his vulgar radio
Yeah.
at the end.
And all his post race interviews where he just looked devastated. He's like, it's the second week in a row, and I'm just trying and admit, like, that AlphaTauri car is not fast. And he is trying so hard for the entire race to try to keep that car in the points. I really felt for him.
And like we, as discussed, like Haas would be competitive for Haas at Saudi Arabia. And they, were able to pull off points. But like the fact that it's Kevin Magnussen, that, yeah, it's rough. It was a rough time for Yuki. My P2, we just discussed Valtteri Bottas. Oh my God. The only person below McLaren. And unfortunately, he says his entire horrible race was caused by the debris flying from the Gasly, like Piastri, Norris, like whole entire like ordeal that happened at the beginning. So McLaren still ended up in front of him, but struggled with grip. There was debris flying everywhere. He literally finished more than a full minute behind Lando and was lapped at the end. So
Yeah, it was a rough time. It just always serves as a reminder that, like, if anything gets lodged in that floor, the performance of the car dramatically decreases. Like, we saw this at Silverstone last year with Max's car, and he had the giant piece of AlphaTauri debris stuck in his floor. But so it's a similar thing. It hasn't been fully like the team hasn't come out and confirmed it, but like
it was his speculations, and like, God, he had 3 pit stops, like.
Because he probably kept saying, like, I'm losing grip, what's going on? And it's because there's no downforce to the floor. Like, poor guy. Poor guy.
And my number one, biggest womp womp moments, because it's just where I felt the most just devastated and sad, is Lance's DNF, because that radio of, stop the car! Just stop the car now, stop the car on track. That was terrifying. It was scary. And just, God, he can't catch a break between his wrists and now, like, this race. It's been a rough time for Lance. So you know what? I'll give you the top of the podium here, buddy.
I'm sure he wants that top of the podium.
I know. It's been a rough one.
I want a Lance podium so badly. I really thought that there was an opportunity this week. And then there was a safety car. And even though it was caused by him, but like, then Max just got to like go. But
yeah, as soon as it's, people are like, it could have been a virtual safety car, but like that, it's a whole bunch of things we don't need to go into right now. But as soon as it became an actual safety car, it was like, well, Max could have just waited a little and then just like, but rough time, and it was just not an ideal situation and a very scary radio to receive. So sorry, Lance, maybe Australia? So this race gave us many very interesting radio moments. I do have a short list of radios that did not age well. For P3, and it's very fitting, I have Checo, and I'll censor this for the pod. Checo during FP2, just, hitting a little bit of traffic and just, oh, for fork's sake. And there were numerous exclamations of frustration from Checo. And as we saw at the end of qualifying, basically became a Red Bull sandwich of having him all the way at the back, and he had to kind of fight his way. It was a rough weekend for Checo, so it just did not age well of him already knowing.
At the same time, it did age well. He knew it wasn't going well, but yeah.
You're right. So maybe he should be taken off the podium, but you know what? We'll at least he's on this podium this week for him. We'll keep him there. Then P2, could not get over this. It's lap 1. Nico is fighting through all that little bit of traffic right at the start of the race. And he says clear to Haas, let's go, baby. And they say right back to him, Nico, we have a puncture. You must pit. It's just so Haas. It was just so unbelievable. Like, it sounded like you had two different races going on. He's like, let's go, baby. And they're like, we have a puncture. We must pit. We must pit now. Immediate did not age well. And then we have my final radio that did not age well. And also, basically immediately didn't age well. Carlos telling Ferrari, talking about Esty Bestie, let's push him to use his tires. Immediately crashes into him. You didn't need to really literally push him. Wow, did that not age well? So very fast. Front wing damage immediately.
I think we both have radios of the week.
Oh yes, I have a podium of radios, and I have 2 honorary mentions.
I only have a podium, so I think we should do your 2 honorable mentions, and then P3, P3, P2. Let's alternate.
Yeah, great. Okay, so my 2 honorary mentions of whoops, sorry, I'm getting
radios of the week.
Radios of the week. Cool. Okay, so for my 2 honorary mentions, the first one is Alonso's tell Lance not to worry. It was.
Boo.
That's why it's not on the podium. It's an honorary mention because it was an interesting moment of the week of something to discuss, and we have already discussed it at length, and that's where I'll leave it. My other honorary mention. George constantly talking about, is it raining on the radio? Is anyone else reporting rain? I think it is sweat from the inside of my helmet. And then it's like, nope, sounds like it's literally just you. So I think it's the sweat. Yeah, those are my honorary mentions. Just really stood out and were consistent throughout the race. So yeah, they made themselves known.
That leads perfectly into my P3, which is George Russell mistaking sweat for rain. And it was specifically the one where he had to tell the team that he thinks he did that, where he asked, did anyone else report rain? And they were like, no. And he was like, and then he goes into this long dissertation.
I think it's the sweat on the inside of my visor. It's like, yeah, it is. I think I'd love that. Yeah, it sounds like it's just you.
I'm constantly amazed that they can have these full conversations driving cars that fast.
I think about that literally every single time.
Every week. All right, what's your P3?
My P3 is the last race, the last lap of the race, Max's radio. Okay, now you can bring it home within the white lines. And he just goes, yeah. It's like, but stay inside the lines.
Yeah, that's the stress of his engineer, where he was like, could you just go slower? And Max was essentially saying the entire race, I don't want to. That's no fun. Which does lead, again, you are transitioning very nicely into my P2 here. It's not exactly that, but it was specifically the Max radio where he was mad about the black and white flag that he got when a 5-second penalty could not matter less for that man, but he still was angry at the principle of potentially getting a penalty.
You could have gotten like 3 5-second penalties and still won, right? It's something like ridiculous. I can't remember what the final timing was, but I know during the race when we were talking about this, it's like you can get multiple. It's okay.
I think he was at that point 25 seconds ahead, and the Red Bull had pace in hand. Like if he really needed to speed up, he could have. Yep. But it did give me a good chuckle. He cared still.
Of course. My P2 is a post-race radio, And it's just because I'm wholesome and happy. And it was my P1. And then I just found my favorite radio of the entire weekend. Lewis's mega job, guys. Mega. His use of the word mega is so great. And then, of course, he goes into his long list. And I always just admire and respect how almost this, like, first thing out of his mouth is thanking everyone back at the factory and the team and the work that they did. He even thanked, like, did a shout out to George for doing a mega job. His words. Go. Yeah. Mega job, guys. Gotta keep pushing.
All right, my P1 is the back and forth interaction between Carlos and his race engineer, where the team said that he should box because his pace is degrading. And he's like, what are you talking about? My pace is great. And the team essentially had to tell him, no, you are going too slow.
Although that felt...
It was such a fantastic back and forth, though. He's like, what are you talking about? My pace is great. And the team was like, politely like, oh.
That's giving like a lot of the vibes last week from Nico. It was like, yeah, baby. It was like, box, we have a puncture.
All right, what's your P1?
My P1 is potentially my favorite radio of the season. It is I know, but as soon as I say it, you'll be like, yeah, this would be a Nicole favorite radio. But you'll also enjoy it because it is a post-race radio from Lance Stroll. And it's commending him on all the work that he's doing, and that they're like, next race, Canada, home race, something to look forward to. And his response is, yeah, looking forward to maple syrup on my pancakes. And that is a real radio that exists. And I laughed so hard. Because it was just so matter of fact, like, yeah, looking forward to maple syrup on my pancakes, and just Canadian boy.
I don't know how people don't like Lance Stroll. I don't get it. I really don't. Things that were said in either the press conference or the media pen that just, I don't even know what the right adjective is, but just things that I liked. Like, things that just made me happy all weekend. I laughed, I watched the clip over, etc., etc.
Yeah, there were some good ones. I'm excited.
Honorable mention. And it is the moment post-race where they got Nico Rosberg to do the post-race interviews, and Nico's about to say something additional to Lewis, and he just goes, thank you, goodbye, and walks away. Nico getting cut off.
Literally the cosmos aligned. I couldn't, when I realized what was happening, I cannot believe we have gone through this whole episode and like haven't discussed this yet. It was like I was watching, standing up and like staring at my screen of like, what? And then he was like, thank you, walk, bye.
Yeah. I have rewatched it. I can't figure out what Nico was going to say, but whatever it was, Lewis identified that it wasn't going to just be the professional interview, and he said, nope, goodbye.
Incredible.
And that's just my honorable mention.
I know. Oh my gosh.
Okay. So P3 is Lance after the race when he was asked about Fernando Alonso's in-race interview. And he just gave the most annoyed stare I've ever seen him give to a reporter and just said, I don't know, he's over there, go ask him. Incredible.
Iconic.
My P2 is the moment in the media pen where Lance and Esteban like say hi to each other and like congratulate each other on the race. He walks over to the interviewer and the interviewer goes, what's that about? And he goes, I don't know, we're friends? Like, he just, the disbelief that ran over this man's face, and he just said, I was saying hi to my friend. And I've watched that clip so many times. It's incredible.
What was that about? Yeah. Again, he's just like, we're friends. Bye. Next. What do you want?
Hi. Yeah.
Is this just a Lance podium?
No, because okay. P1 is Lewis.
Okay.
So I guess it's a Lewis and Lance podium, which I just needed a Carlos, and then it would be. But you know what? These are things that happened in media situations that I enjoyed this weekend. That's essentially what this podium was. It was when Lewis, in the post-race interview, used the phrase "next year." Give us the contract. Announce it now. Thank you.
There's a future. He said it. He said next year, even though there's no official announcement. But he said that.
Right. And him and Toto all weekend were just like, "Yep, we just need to sit down and do it." But for my personal sanity, do it. Can you just announce it tomorrow or the day after that, or at least before Canada starts? I know it's going to happen, but please, thank you.
I have a wholesome podium for probably one of the most wholesome races, the Canadian GP.
Let's do it.
All right. So my P3, Yuki doing a post-race flip into the river. It was an unbelievable front flip. One of his team members is leaving for another team on the grid. It was a whole celebration of throwing him into the river. And then you just see Yuki yeeting himself full front flip into the river. Incredible celebration. Very impressed.
Yeah. I was impressed with the flip. And then I also thought his social media posts, sending off his, he said that he'd become close friends. And it really was wholesome. I approve. I don't know how you're going to top this if that's your P3.
Yeah. There was just wholesome enough. Wait till I get to P1 because that's where we get to the story of all of this. Okay, and my P2, the lumberjack version of Valtteri, and this combines his helmet, which has an incredible design of groundhogs, beavers, an actual cartoon of him dressed as a lumberjack in full-on blue plaid, but the cherry on top of it all, because it's Gridwalk's favorite, Alfa Romeo then sold the plaid blue that he's wearing on his hat as VB Canadian GP merch.
Valtteri Bottas in his post-Mercedes era is just like, what can I monetize? I don't know if I would describe that as wholesome, but I liked it a lot.
Like the little groundhogs and the beavers are so cute. It's all the cartoon drawings, and then being able to turn it into merch. They're just. I
think you're forgetting Valtteri and beavers, and
right. No, I'm talking but the design itself, ignoring. I'm talking literally design itself.
All right, we can agree to disagree. It's fine. What is your P1?
Beavers. And, okay. My P1, Alex Albon Pets celebrating Alex all weekend.
That's a really good choice. I love that account, and it is incredibly wholesome.
Alex Albon has an Instagram account for his, I think he has 12 cats, 4 dogs. There's a recent episode of Gridwalk where I talk about an update of how many pets he has or something. And throughout the entire weekend, the pets, someone was posting updates of the pets watching Alex all weekend.
Are Mercedes quotes that got me so hyped up for the rest of this season. We're coming off a whole segment where we talk about how bad things are. These are things that got me jumping up and down, ready to go. Let's do this. Yeah. This is the Hope Alarm Podium.
Incredible. I'm all for it. Let's go.
Okay. P3, 2 more upgrades. And they're both coming before summer break. We have 4 races left. We know the big one is coming at Silverstone, and then we have 1 more, and they're both supposed to be significant upgrades to the Mercedes car.
Toto just dropping that, there you go. Here you go.
P2, Silverstone. Toto was asked, if I say you're going to win a race this year, what circuit would that be on by Viva Play after the race? And he just said, Silverstone. Yes, please.
I can't. That just gets me kind of amped at all. Just also hearing an answer to the question when it could have just been like, oh, we don't know and we will see. Some workaround answer, but giving any sort of answer. And of course, I'm still in that brain. We've picked Max as P1 for like every single race for every prediction. And again,
as we should.
As right. Don't worry, I'm not like suddenly changing that anytime
Silverstone.
Soon. Stop!
P1. Lewis, it's hammer time. I can't believe they didn't play it over the live feed. It's actually shocking to me that it didn't happen. But for the first time in about a year and a half, we got it. It's hammer time.
The universe is healing. It feels right. It feels like a right thing to say. It should always make sense and be relevant on a Lewis Hamilton radio. Thank
Nicole,
goodness.
Silver time. I'm sorry, I combined them together. Nicole, Silverstone. Just Silverstone.
I can't. I'm so nervous. I'm hiding behind baby Lewis and I am scared but so excited. P3, shady, sassy, silly, spicy moment of the weekend. The George Russell, Daniel Ricciardo flipping off of the bird exchange. Due to video evidence now being provided, George started this whole thing.
I just appreciate that you can tell that George got out of the car and was thinking about this joke he was going to say to a media member the entire way there. He was like, you know what? I had this interaction. It's going to be funny. It's going to get clipped out. And he was like, and I'm going to say it this way to this presenter. Like, I thought it was fantastic.
Yes, it's so great. George quoted of an Australian fan was loose in the paddock and, flipped a finger at me. And then you'd see George, the footage is great. Literally, Danny Ric on the pit wall, George in the car, George, you see a little glove, and then Danny Ric does it right back. So, P2, Pierre behind Carlos in the driver's parade.
That was a lot of talk from someone who got 2 impeding penalties the week before.
Unbelievable. But, you make a big enough stink, and there was so much impeding going on just all weekend that and the line of the steward's office was crazy. But the fact that Alpine then posted a picture of Pierre with Carlos in front of him saying, oh, I think we need another grid penalty. Like, I can't believe this. It's
kettle.
Unbelievable. And just being able
to
turn around and turn it into a joke so fast, I appreciate the good content.
Agreed.
And I can't believe I even for a second thought of changing this from P1 because it is potentially my new favorite GIF moment of the entire weekend. P1 moment, Toto impersonating Alonso steering the wheel. Oh my goodness. The unbelievable moving hands back and forth and just we don't need to go into the entire situation of the entire thing because it all just ends with a very, very silly, incredible video of Toto memeingly driving a car, and it is exactly what Alonso looked like. And those are my shady moments of the weekend.
Well, we can't have a Canadian GP without animals. So I brought a podium of animal moments of the weekend because there were enough stellar animal-related moments to actually make a fantastic podium. So much so that I have an honorable mention. And the honorable mention is a callback to something you said earlier, which is Valtteri's helmet.
Very candid.
It was a good design. P3, groundhogs during FP1. The fact that FP1 didn't happen and then poor commentators just had to resort to talking about groundhogs for extended periods of time and going to different shots of them all over the track and explaining, there's another one at turn 9. And normally they'll just one-off mention it, and they were forced to give a whole dissertation about groundhogs because they needed to fill the time.
The incorporation of the groundhogs in the F1 graphics, and then also having any groundhog have like a name card come up. I'm just like, there is a professional with F1 that was instructed to be like, the groundhog needs a name, the groundhog needs an identity, and a whole persona. I love it. Incredible.
I really, sidebar, was very impressed with the F1 TV crew for the fact that they were able to fill the entire broadcast time of FP1 with nothing going on and no updates. And they were just able to talk. And that's a skill. I was really impressed. But moving on, P2. Max Verstappen went on a safari. Not only was there a bird in his brake duct, there's this fantastic video of him being asked about it and then going through every animal he saw during his race. Oh yeah, there was a groundhog at this turn. There were a couple other birds at different moments. It's about a 30-second video of Max just talking about all the animals he interacted because he didn't come across any competitive cars.
He probably saw another one of those animals when he went over that curb.
Right. And P1, you might be saying, how is Max getting a bird stuck in his car not the best animal moment of the weekend? And that is because P1 is Valtteri's quote, "Good weather for a duck."
I loved that quote so much.
And his delivery was so different than mine, because he went, "Good weather for," and then this dramatic pause, "a duck." And it was like, he was driving around in that F1 car, almost losing it, and just felt like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do some good delivery of my, silly joke here over the radio. He had a great weekend, it seems.
Valtteri is a cyclist, an F1 driver, and a comedian, all in one.
First podium of the weekend. It's a biggie.
It's a fun one. These are some of my favorites.
I think 8 or 9 drivers brought special helmets to the Grand Prix this weekend. I should have counted before we started.
Everyone loves to celebrate Silverstone.
Yeah. And so many of them, even if they're not a British driver, did their junior career, so they really grew up there. So we're gonna do best specialty helmets of the weekend. I do have 2 honorable mentions.
We love our honorable mentions. They're always they're fitting. It's hard to make decisions. 3 is not enough options.
No. So I cheated, and I'm assuming based on how you're saying that you followed the rules and you only brought a P1 through P3.
I did. I did have a P1 through P3, but I'm happy to hear that you have honorable mentions.
Okay. Well, honorable mention 1, Esti Besti. While it wasn't my favorite design, I liked the idea that if you're going to bring a tribute helmet to the fact that the race team operates out of England, the fact that he put all the names of people who worked in the factory on the helmet, I just thought it was wholesome and worth an honorable mention.
Absolutely adorable. I love that one.
And then honorable mention 2 is Lewis Hamilton. I don't think it actually qualifies as a special helmet, which is why it's not on my podium. But I did like that he put the Mission 44 logo on the top of his helmet, which is where you get most of the camera angles. And for a non-profit organization that works primarily out of the UK, it just felt important to call attention to it. And therefore, I am now going to call further attention to it by putting it as an honorable mention on the podium. All right, let's actually get into this. Okay, what is your P3?
I will kick off by P3 with, and it kind of works out because it was an honorable mention, Esti Besti.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I also really loved it, and I appreciate, the acknowledgement of team members working in any sense, and that being a call it to home. I also love that it had the coordinates of both of their factories on it. I think that's really sick. Yeah, so cool idea, and wow, someone sat with a good amount of time and had the placement to make sure all of those names fit well. So shout out to them.
Did it have every name, or did they send out a Google form? It was if you want your name on the helmets, it's first come first serve, and you had to write in the name.
I like how they sell squares on the checkered flag. It's have your name on the flag, if on you don't submit it. Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
All right, my P3 was Fernando Alonso. I don't normally put Alonso on many podiums, but his helmet this week with the like throwback number on it was really cool. And it's actually the same kind of style as the Williams livery for Singapore, the special Golf livery I voted for. I love that like old-timey circle number. It's always gonna get me.
I knew you were gonna have this on yours, and you were gonna be like, I don't want to put Fernando on here, but It is really cool, and we love throwbacks and callbacks to old things, and Aston Martin has such history, so that was definitely a really, really cool design. Okay, so we're on to P2. I had a rule for myself on this podium that I was only allowed to select one shiny chrome designed helmet. I set unnecessary rules for myself. So P2, I have Pierre Gasly. I was a big fan of his obnoxious shiny chrome like British UK flag, and Alpine had just such a like unnecessarily hardcore like intro video of the helmet just going around the UK and just all of these different places and things. It shot really cool, it looked cool in the lighting, and just was definitely my pick. And I mean, we have the other obvious chrome pick, but I was going with the theme of the British GP here, and I picked Pierre for my P2.
I love when we do these podiums and we both do them, because this is where like our different tastes really show, because I thought that was the ugliest helmet. And I thought the only helmet that was uglier this weekend was Valtteri's. And it'd be really funny if in a second you tell me that's your P1. Oh, Nicole has left the frame. For those of you watching on YouTube, there is now just a chair and Taylor Swift albums.
I'm literally not even gonna wait. I'm not even gonna wait for you to tell me anything else. My P1, Valtteri Bottas. I loved how corny and unbelievably 2012 keep calm and carry on his helmet was. Like, we have such an order that we do these podiums, and I've thrown it out the window because 100% in my notes.
I can't breathe. Oh my gosh. I think there's a way you can do chuggy in like that's fun, and I did not think that. Oh my god.
You gotta do chuggy as not. No, he did such an incredible level of chuggy, and 2012 Nicole would have absolutely like had that phone had like that pattern as like her phone background. Like,
this is incredible.
Wow, we did not write this. Anyway, so clearly we have different P2s and P1s.
Wait a minute. Oh my gosh, as I was saying it, I watched your face come to a realization. That was okay. Well, my P2 was Joe's.
Mm-hmm.
He did a throwback to his karting helmet, and I really liked the colors of it, and I liked that he did a thing that was like British GP themed without having to put the Union Jack on it. Like, you know how we always say that like F1, basically what it does is it goes around and appropriates like every stereotype of an area. So I just appreciate when someone avoids doing that.
Keep calm, carry on. We did not plan this. I cannot believe this. I'm so glad this is being recorded and live.
Alright, well, my P1 is Lando Norris. So it was my chrome option of choice, and I loved the marketing of it, but also if you're gonna go chrome, like go chrome. And
he did it. He did chrome. It is the chromiest of chrome helmets that have ever chromed. It really was what it was.
Did you see the photo after the race of all the bugs that got picked up by the helmet that you can... Because
no, ew!
Like, which I'm sure always happens and happened to every driver, but you basically just see a bunch of dead gnats all over the helmet because it's chrome and you can see it.
Gross. So gross, but yeah.
Yeah,
so...
but nothing else could be P1 for me because the marketing of it mixed with like just how sick it looks. And yes, my podium somehow included Alonso and Lando. Like, we need to mark this moment for posterity.
Yeah, this is an imposter. I do not know who this is, except for the fact that our podiums were so unbelievably different confirms that this definitely is you. So there we go. Here we need to confirm that you're getting multiple viewpoints on this podcast. We sometimes think the same and unbelievably different. So this was not the Silverstone that Mercedes, I will say, advertised and
That's fair. Toto advertised competing for a win. This was not that.
I really do believe that the man thought that's what was going to happen, and it just wasn't. Okay, but that's not why I'm here. This is a podium of moments as a Mercedes fan that didn't make me want to cry and scream from Silverstone. So, you know what? Because the glass can be half full, even times when it just feels half empty. And this could have been a podium of every single moment that Lewis Hamilton basically like breathed air at Silverstone. And I chose to not have it be that type of podium. So these are some wholesome moments, some great moments, some wonderful Mercedes moments.
So it wasn't Lewis's podium or Lewis's incredible race pace or Lewis not bashing the car just with the sledgehammer because he was so frustrated. None of those things.
None of those things are on this podium, but they all definitely could have all qualified for P1. So instead, I will start with P3. George having a wholesome family moment on stage. So at the fan stage area, you know, he brings out his niece and nephew, and they're like decked out in GR63 merch. I'm just like, this is so cool and cute. And imagine like your uncle's an F1 driver, and you get to be brought out on stage at Silverstone of all places. Like a hardcore, like definite core memory being like developed at that time. I was like, I want to do this.
That did not make me want to cry or scream.
Right,
I think that's a good P3.
It was like a wholesome cry. It was like a, oh, like that kind of cry, not like a, oh my god, why did I make these decisions in life?
P2.
P2. George and Toto's uniquely patterned shirts. This video I watched numerous times in a row. It is George sporting an incredible Darth Toto fully patterned repeated shirt, and Toto then in a Susie Wolf patterned repeated shirt. And I think I need both of those shirts. I don't know which one I want more, but I think I need both of them.
I just loved the video for watching Toto's immediate distaste for the fact that he knew, damn, I'm gonna have to put on that shirt. And it didn't matter whose face was on the shirt. It just doesn't match Toto's whole thing. And
he's in the middle of eating breakfast, and George walks in wearing that shirt, and Toto knew there's going to be one that I'm going to have to wear with somebody's face. But you know what? He probably thought it was George's face. And then maybe when he saw that it was Susie's, he was like, okay, I guess, like, maybe it's less. But he just knew that no matter what, this is exactly what was gonna go.
He still leaned into the bit.
Leaned into the bit, and respect Darth Toto for that bit. And P1, superstar of the entire weekend, Roscoe Hamilton. This dog is media trained. He was anywhere, everywhere, all the time. I can't believe the amount of attention. You would think he's an additional driver on this grid. I was losing my mind when he showed up with Lewis on the first day, and then every single day after that, Roscoe was delivering on the content.
I went into this weekend fully expecting way too much Brad Pitt content, and I think Roscoe Hamilton upstaged Brad Pitt. I saw maybe 2 or 3 like photos that F1 put out of Brad Pitt in the filming of the movie. At least a dozen different unique pieces of content that other people were like, I want to do content with that dog. And don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure Roscoe has more Instagram followers than at least 80% of the grid. And I will put up on the screen what the actual ranking he is on the YouTube video, because I don't remember right now. But Roscoe Hamilton is the man.
I definitely saw more interviews from Roscoe this weekend than some drivers. Like, there's definitely some drivers that I did not personally watch interviews for, and I watched multiple interviews of a dog and a tiny microphone. So, you know, he was the superstar. Shout out to Roscoe.
Marketing moments of the weekend. If this is your first grid walk episode, or you haven't heard us say this yet, we both work in marketing. We're both big marketing business nerds. So I thought there was enough cool marketing moments of the weekend to make a podium. Honorable mention, F1's first attempt at the digital on-track advertisements that you add in post onto the surface. I think this is cool tech. This is tech they use in a ton of other sports. Like notably, I see it all the time in basketball where they'll just put different sponsors on the court. Feels like something F1 was lacking. Now, I will say that their first attempt wasn't stellar. It didn't line up quite right, but I'm glad to see them innovating. P3, the Williams pop-up store. I will never skirt around a moment to talk about what a great thing the Williams pop-ups are. They are the only team that's doing this right now. Not only could you go there at certain times to meet different personalities, including their drivers, their team principal, their development drivers, but also just the experience at the pop-ups are so cool. We went to the one in Austin last year. You can drive simulator, you can do the button pressy reaction time thing. Their merch is sick. It's just such good marketing and fan activation. P2, Apex GP selling sponsorships for their fake movie car. Now, of course, for movies, you sell sponsorships, and that's why there's product placements in movies. But I thought it was really cool marketing that they sold these sponsorship placements, put them on the car, and then you get the extra boost of everyone who's engaging with F1 now and everyone at the track, at the circuit who got to see the car go around interact with your sponsors. So they probably got to charge more beyond just it being in the movie because it was there on track. And we all now know that all of these brands are sponsoring this movie.
Unbelievable. It's incredible to see sponsorship like that and that like on the livery. I was like, those are real companies.
P1, the Ferris wheel that looked like the Chrome logo. Incredible job. Like, I just love when the Chrome logo for a sponsorship thing goes on anything circular. But what particularly made this special is that Ferris wheel was behind so many shots of the weekend. And like, it could have just been a Ferris wheel. And instead, it was just always the Chrome logo. I think that Ferris wheel was better marketing well spent than the Chrome livery on the car. Because the car always has Google Chrome marketing. There's not always a Ferris wheel in the background of like every shot with the giant Chrome logo on it.
100%. Ferris wheel with the Chrome logo at every race, now and forever.
My first podium of the weekend. Graphics from the F1 Juniors broadcast that need to be brought over to the main feed immediately. They can be like reskinned, but they are better than what we currently have on the main feed.
I don't know how you're going to decide this.
Well, yeah, so many of them were great. I think the use of just general like augmented reality and like was really cool. But honorable mention is all of those augmented reality overlays. So basically, like, they kept, like, putting the current standings, and it was just in the middle of the track. There was a really cool one when they were focusing on a pit stop. They, like, put the car with the driver. It was just, like, very dynamic and really well done. Like, for a first go, very impressed. P3, the time gap graphic with gaining and dropping. So, not that they don't put time gap graphics up on the screen on the normal feed, but I find them, they have like a very steep barrier to entry. And I think even like a normal non-12-year-old would appreciate just the call out of Lewis Hamilton gaining on Sergio Perez. And if our broadcasters on the main feed aren't going to verbally say that, I think having it on the graphic would just help everyone overall. Like, I know that like my mom, who I watch most F1 races with, would love that. And she's a pretty informed viewer. All right, P2, information graphics on the goal of the drivers at that moment. So similarly, versus like gaining or falling away, and multiple times they put up on the screen, Lewis Hamilton chasing Sergio Perez. Like that literally just is like, this is the goal. And I think that's helpful for everyone, telling the story of the race. And last but not least, P1, The radio overlay. They need to have a photo of the driver in the radio overlay from now on. It makes it so much more personable. I really love it.
It brings it to life, really personifies the radio. For a broadcast that I completely was not able to fully watch at all because of where I live in the world, I loved the F1 Juniors broadcast. One of the major pieces that I thoroughly enjoyed the use throughout the entire weekend was the individual avatars they made for every single driver. So I'm here to basically tell. Oh my gosh. Hello, tripod that just wants to just not tripod. That's so.
Your poor tripod.
It's fine. I don't know why. I thought I fixed it. Okay. So I am here with a podium of my favorite F1 driver avatars from the F1 Junior broadcast. I have an honorable mention, which I guess it's an honorable mention, but I just kind of need to discuss the elephant in the room of Daniel Ricciardo.
Oh, wait, sorry. Hold on, that was the wrong sounder. I don't think it's an honorable mention. I think it's a we have to talk about it.
Oh my god, the sounds felt like a personal attack. I was just going to point out, Danny Ric's, if you told me if all of the things did not happen in the last, week and 2 weeks that have happened, and if Nick was still at AlphaTauri, and if that was the same graphic, I'd be like, yeah, that's Nick DeVries. Did they change it? Who really knows? It kind of feels like someone was like, sure, close enough.
It really felt like they were at a severe crunch for time because that was Nick DeVries, and they went, so if we always use the smiling option, do you think everyone will buy it? Because every other driver had different variations where they weren't smiling, but not the Danny Ric that was definitely Nick DeVries, that by the time they do this again, will definitely have a different version.
Not enough nose.
No.
And I mean that in the most loving way possible. Not enough nose for that to be Daniel Ricciardo. But
not the right hair, and not even... No. Just, it wasn't Daniel Ricciardo. That was Nick DeVries.
That was Nick DeVries. Okay, now on to the actual podium of my favorite avatars and really the things that made them different and why I enjoyed them more than the others. P3, Alex Albon. A perfect embodiment of blonde Alex. He has blonde hair, he looks fun, he looks sassy. Blonde Alex, basically in a Pixar format. I enjoy it. Wonderful, always. Blonde Alex. P2, Valtteri Bottas.
No way that's not P1. I was so sure when you said you were doing this podium that was going to be P1.
Well, also I am letting a lot of my fan bias infiltrate all of this, but the P2 of an animated mullet is spot on. It really nailed it. Perfect VB energy, and I'm convinced that he probably now has that as his Paddock photo for the rest of forever. And my P1, aka what I found the most enjoyable and my favorite avatar of the entire weekend, no surprise to anyone at all, is Lewis Hamilton. It was so cute. Yeah. I loved his braids. It was such Lewis vibes. It had such Lewis energy. And guess what? Yeah, my favorite driver. So what would be my favorite avatar? Lewis Hamilton.
So as the prior segment showed, in F1, data explains a lot. But there are some things that happened this weekend that I have zero explanation for. And actually, I only have one thing on this podium.
Wait, so you have a one item podium?
Yes.
Do I use... I don't know what sound to use for this.
I think the P1.
Okay.
P1. P1, things that happened this weekend that I have zero explanation for, even after looking and doing the research and following up and trying to figure it out. Alfa Romeo's pace.
Sick. Tell us more.
I don't have anything to say. I don't have... that. I have no explanation for it.
No explanation.
They were just fast. All of a sudden.
Congratulations. But got nothing out of it. Oh, a collection, which could be almost a never-ending list because there was just so many wholesome moments. I tried to spice it up to get a little bit of different types of Danny Rics, but my favorite Danny Ric moments from the Hungarian Grand Prix weekend, and I will start with an honorable mention because it's almost more of a fun fact.
Okay.
So, my honorable mention of learning Daniel Ricciardo's Paddock Pass picture. And it's his picture from the Met Gala, which is like a interesting flex. P3, my favorite Daniel Ricciardo moments. Every single morning, waking up with some kind of buongiorno, 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 buongiorno. Daniel Ricciardo, good morning, practicing his Italian, and in my opinion, it's the best that AlphaTauri clothes have ever looked all weekend. I was like, huh, this is fashion.
Okay, those were two things on one podium, and you were talking very fast, and I didn't know when to hit the button. But I'm glad, like, as much as I'm not a Danny Ric fan, I'm a fan of excited Nicole, and I can attest that, like, every morning I got an excited text with, look at all the things.
Yes, but it was just, I think every day I was looking forward to, like, his coming into the paddock, because it was like a reminder of this actually happening. So it was the welcoming greetings in AlphaTauri clothing. So, yeah, there you go. P2 for Daniel Ricciardo moments. F1 Junior interview post-quali. But I guess it was post-quali for Danny Ric, just basically when it all happened. But particularly, he was being interviewed at the exact moment that Lewis Hamilton was crossing the finish line and confirming for pole. And the F1 Junior interviewing him was an unbelievable Lewis Hamilton fan, so she was unbelievably excited. And also, as Danny Ric is trying to not be rude of, like, in the middle of an interview, was like every moment of, like, I'm talking to a family member's talking to me while watching an F1 race, and I'm just like, like, looking back and forth of the screen, because you can just see him being like, oh, this is what's happening, and I'm gonna speak to the little girl. But then she was just like, Lewis Hamilton's on pole! Like, it was just iconic.
I loved the screen cap of his face. Like, someone screenshot the video of him like... I'm sorry to audio listeners, I made the face.
Come check it out on YouTube to see what it is. But just the immediate of him processing what's happening was wonderful, really wholesome, absolutely great. And my P1 Daniel Ricciardo moment. How big is your smile on a scale of 1 to 10, Daniel? And post-quali, his response is 34,769. And if that's not the most Daniel Ricciardo answer I've ever heard, and just felt so serious, so legit. I'm so happy to have him back on the grid, and I really enjoyed all the content that it was. But Honey Badger is back-ish, baby.
This is our final podium of the episode today. And it's actually not about the Grand Prix last weekend, which... bucking the system, but these are controversial things that I like more than Spa in its current dangerous configuration. Okay, P3. Red Bull ending up winning every race in 2023. Better than the current configuration of the Spa track.
That's only P3? Oh, no.
I will say that I really, like, all three of these could probably be in any order.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say it's going to be an aggressive podium for sure, but fair.
P2, watching Ferrari mess up its strategy every week. I like that more than the current dangerous configuration of the spot track.
At least that feels familiar.
Yeah, at least it brings entertainment, angry voice notes, data I can run. All right. And P1, controversial things that I like more than the current Spa configuration. A Monaco Grand Prix with no on-track overtakes.
Ah, she said it! Monaco is not bad. It's fun. And I agree with you, though. This is a stacked podium that I 1,000% back. At Gridwalk, we love our podiums. Even for races that we don't really enjoy, we'll find podiums to give you. So here are my moments from the weekend at Spa that put a smile on my face, but no surprise, all of it's off track because I don't like Spa. So, off-track moments at Spa that put a smile on my face. P3, Alex Albon gifted a knitted horsey. Horsey, and Horsey is one of his many cats and not a horse, to be very clear. A fan knitted him a stuffed animal of one of his many pets. Follow at Albon Pets if you're not already. And it made its way to Alex, and he posted it, and the fan was really excited. And I always just love when that, like, fan to driver pipeline goes all the way through. P2, the sticker wars.
This is only P2.
This is only P2. But the nonsense all weekend of Ferrari, Red Bull stickers, and it's going to branch through the whole paddock. I can't wait. Highlight was Fred trying to put a Red Bull sticker on Helmut Marko's forehead, and Helmut is definitely not a fan of stickers. Like...
Or people? I don't think
people, but like, there's people that's like, I don't do stickers, like sticky things, like doesn't surprise me. Marco's not one of those. And anyway, P1, the F1 Academy announcement. Finally, we got news from Susie Wolf, the managing director of F1 Academy this weekend, that the remaining F1 Academy race on the calendar will be shown live because it will be the first race paired with F1 in Austin. And then every F1 Academy race remaining will be shown live because now they'll also correlate with F1 races. Thank goodness. It was the exact news that I wanted to hear, have been waiting to hear, and thank goodness we got it.
And you're right, none of those have anything to do with Spa.
None of them have to do with Spa, but they all happened during Spa weekend.
Since it is now summer break, the media technically doesn't have a regulated summer break, but they definitely take one. So this is my podium of coverage that would be very different right now if it wasn't the last day of school. P3, all Mercedes coverage of their upgrades. As we covered, there was porpoising, and I haven't seen any scary headlines about porpoising is back.
Nothing. See nothing either.
Yep. P2, McLaren Sunday. After all the promise of their big upgrade and everything, and then they just had a disaster of a Sunday, and no one's talking about it.
Everyone's just asleep. They're on vacation.
And P1, Ferrari's podium. I even took a peek in some Italian tabloids, and I'm confused by the lack of coverage. Have they given up? Since it is spring break, which marks the midpoint in the season, give or take a race because China, but this week I have 2 podiums that I'm calling my mid-season review podiums. And then next week, Nicole is going to bring her mid-season review podiums. So starting out in probably the least shocking place, if you've listened to Gridwalk for a while, which is my favorite marketing, activation, partnership announcements, etc. of the season. So we both work in marketing. The sponsorship side of F1 is something that we're very passionate about if you're new here.
It's our favorite.
So I do have an honorable mention here. It's an honorable mention because it is kind of preseason. I don't know how much it would count, but I wanted to include it.
I count.
And it... Okay, thank you. Cool. So, honorable mention, PacSun's merch line. The freaking out I did that I now own 2 Formula One crop tops that I did not cut myself. Worthy of inclusion on the podium. I probably would be higher if it happened in season. Can't all be perfect. P3, Google Chrome at the Silverstone GP. The Ferris wheel, Lando Norris's helmet. I don't think I heard more non-marketing business people talking about a marketing business activation than this activation because of how well they integrated it. And you can say what you want about the car livery and the fact that they kind of misfired in my opinion, but at least we were talking about the fact that there was a Google Chrome livery. All right, P2. Oh, which one do I pick? Okay. Okay, P2.
The last minute decision.
I know. I didn't actually rank these before doing it. I just listed out my top moments.
Go with your gut.
P2, Celsius sponsoring Ferrari for the US races.
P2 for Celsius.
Yeah, because this one's really on the list mostly because of my personal excitement for this, We did do an entire 30-minute segment about what this means and how excited we are. If I remember, we'll link it in the show notes below so you could go back and listen to it, because it all is still relevant about why this partnership was such a big deal to us. The reason it's only P2 is because I think it doesn't signify as much for the space as what P1 is going to be. And you can argue with me about these being flipped after I tell you my P1, which is P1, Tart doing an influencer brand trip at the Miami GP.
Yeah.
The fact that a makeup brand decided that the best place to do a brand trip and bring a bunch of influencers was a Formula One race was so foundational in my brain that we as female fans are being seen, that it needed to be P1 to me.
Definitely P1. That was a huge deal. I agree with you. But Celsius, we still love you and happy with Ferrari.
My second mid-season podium is tech moments that fried my brain in the moment. And I mean fried my brain in the most positive way. It was what is going on there? That is crazy. I can't wait to see if that works kind of moment. So, P3, Mercedes B-Spec car.
P3?
Now, this is only P3 because I think we all knew this was inevitable, that this was coming. And the anticipation to see the side pods was there, but it was just a relief that I just no longer had to hear about zero side pods. It was less, there was no oh my god, is this gonna work? It was more this better work. And those are different feelings, but it needed to get mentioned. P3.
Yes.
By the way, not on this list are some things that will probably be on someone listening to this personal exciting tech moments. This is just selfishly my exciting tech moments.
This is for
just
you,
so we're clear.
not for them.
Right. I'm including you into my brain. McLaren is not on this list. McLaren bringing their B-Spec car, it was not an exciting tech moment. It was an exciting moment in the season. But, okay, moving on. Already making excuses about people not liking my podium. P2, when Aston Martin showed up with the water slides in preseason testing. And actually, the craziest part is that they showed the water slides in their car launch. They actually showed their car, but none of us believed them. And there was a whole thing for a while there until we got well-lit photos that no one knew how deep they went. It was do they just go to the depths of hell? And P1, my favorite tech moment of the season so far, is when all the cars went flying at the Monaco GP and we finally got floor pictures. It was just such a glorious day.
And it also just then led to the greatest joke when we got to see the bottom of the Williams and they were just wow, you could really just see the difference.
Oh, you could even see the difference that day between the Mercedes, the Ferrari, and the Red Bull, and just the frenzy in the tech community and circles as everyone was get me the photos, where are the photos? And
the Red Bull, it's the Red Bull, everyone go, 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 go. Everyone's just
I think I sent you a podcast worth of voice notes that day with so many screenshots. And then you started getting all the really smart people drawing squiggly lines and explaining how the floors worked. It was a magical tech day of the season. And I just want to extend a formal thank you to Sergio Perez for just going in his downward spiral, because we would not have all the photos we have today. We actually, post Red Bull upgrade, also got photos of those floors because of him. So thank you. Thank you for not being great, because if you're not going to give us a championship battle, which we all knew, at least give us floor photos of the Red Bull. So thank you. And those are my tech moments of the season so far. An alliteration.
I really will. It just happens so naturally in my brain too. I just love an alliteration, so I will form full ideas just to be able to use alliterations, which is a fantastic.
If our show, I was gonna say, if our show title has an alliteration in it, just know that Nicole wrote that show title.
It is. Like usually I'm just that's wherever I start is I will just try to write as many alliterations as I possibly can that are F1 related. And that's yeah. It
It does happy things to my brain.
just scratches. It's like ASMR like in a type of way. But anyway, last week Brianna had some of her mid-season podium moments, favorite moments of the season thus far, since we are at the halfway point. So now it is my turn. We're going to be going over some mid-season moments today, but I need to start with my favorite podium parties, aka my favorite podiums, favorite moments that just podium celebrations that I was just a little bit more jazzed about than other podium parties. So, starting with P3, the podium at Silverstone. A P3 for Lewis. It felt really good. It felt really deserving. It was like he really just showed how hungry he was and kind of what he could get the W14 to do and be able to do. We were promised a lot at Silverstone, so it just felt very good to see a Mercedes on the podium and let it be Lewis at a home race.
Agreed.
P P2, Monaco. SD Bestie. SD Bestie on the podium. So many things had to happen to get him on the podium, including like cars flying in the air throughout the weekend. But SD Bestie, P3 in Monaco. Don't care how it had to happen. It happened. Happy for it. Just, oh, bright, shining moment of the season so far. And my P1 podium party, Spain. Double Mercedes podium. If you literally need to go back and rewatch our celebration on this podcast just because we didn't need to hear about any voice of reason and just celebrate a double Mercedes podium, you need to go listen back to it because it is so much fun. It was a great day. We got to be a little delirious for a little while and just be like, Mercedes is back. And are they? We don't have to get into that right now. It was fun. That's not what this podium is about. Great podium party back in Spain.
Your Pirelli P1 hat is really fitting for this podium here.
You know?
Did you think
Yeah,
about that ahead of time?
I did. I did. I
Oh,
said
okay.
I have a podium about podium, so I guess I should wear my Pirelli hat today.
Well, we couldn't do a mid-season review without talking about mid-season Paddock fashion. So Nicole has a podium of specifically Lewis Hamilton Paddock fashion moments of the season so far. I have a overarching Paddock fashion moments of the season, but I will say it's mostly Lewis Hamilton anyway. But I didn't limit it. I did look at everyone's Paddock fashion moments. It just kind of turned out this way.
I looked at everyone's and made mine all Lewis anyway.
So I think we're going to start with Nicole's Lewis Hamilton Paddock fashion moments, and then we'll see how many overlap, and then we'll do my podium of Paddock fashion moments of the season so far.
Woo! Okay, I'm sharing my screen so Brianna can look along with me, but in magic Brianna editing fashion. And if you're the cool kids that watch on YouTube, you'll see on the screen. um,
Yes. And I also want to point out, at least for me, I picked this based on how much I personally went when it happened. I don't know what your criteria was.
yeah, I just, particularly ones that I felt extra like about if
Right.
that's gonna be like
Right.
our like but I feel like every weekend we're just whenever Lewis or Joe or like someone arrives in an outfit that's an outfit we're like whoa clothing like it's but particularly Joe and Lewis like do something.
Right.
um
I didn't want people to think we were like evaluating this based on any like fashion rubric. It was just our personal
I would be so
response.
honored that someone thinks I have some type of fashion rubric that's not Lululemon Align leggings or like a Formula One Packs on t-shirt. Like, thanks. No, I'm here to be like, wow, that's fashion. Anyway.
All right. Share your screen. Let's get going.
Anyway, so starting with, because as soon as I share my screen, Brianna will be able to see that I have an honorable mention. And I do feel really weird about it being an honorable mention because I did make a really big deal about this outfit when it was worn. My honorable mention is the Spanish GP neon green Versace matching suit. It is, yeah. I raved about this suit for days and days and
You
days.
did.
It's
Yeah.
my honorable mention.
It just shows the level and bar because I didn't even put this on my honorable mention, and I have five.
I could have had five. There's one that, if it's not on your podium, I may need to bring up because it just deserves the
Okay,
Lewis
we'll get them.
mission, but we're not there yet.
Yep.
Okay. My P3 of Lewis Paddock fits. Bahrain GP race day. It is the day of the all Dior brown fit. It's the skort, half skort, kilt pants. I don't know. He, to me, looks like he should be in Star Wars. I love this outfit so much. What are these sunglasses? It's all Dior head to toe. So
This
only
was this was an incredible moment, but I will point out not only Lewis, but I'll bring that up later.
okay.
But yes,
Yes.
incredible.
P2, British GP Day 2. It is a custom Louis Vuitton fit from Pharrell's line that Lewis was just at. It's this red and blue. I love when, like, there's so many Louis Vuitton outfits that I wanted to put for P2, but this is the one that stood out to me. One in Miami also really stood out, but I tried to also only pick one outfit per race weekend. I absolutely love when he's in custom fits like this. Was perfect for Silverstone. And my P1 Lewis fit, I will be dreaming about this fit forever. Miami Grand Prix race day. The custom Ric Owens sparkle jumpsuit. I want to wear this to the Eras Tour in October of 2024 at Hard Rock Stadium. It's already been there. Lewis, let me borrow it. Oh my goodness. Breathless, speechless. I have no words. It's the best outfit. It's my favorite outfit Lewis has potentially ever worn, which is a lot.
That's strong words. I just remember waking up that morning and seeing these photos and specifically the videos of him walking through and hearing your screams via voice note. Like I felt like I could hear them across the country.
This is the Eras Tour. This is an outfit dressed for reputation. Like I can't even. I can't. I need.
Nah, this is speak now.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Thank you, Ric Owens. Thank you, Lewis Hamilton, for serving fits. And now, please, Brianna, if you would like to share your favorite fashion moments of the season thus far that include not just Lewis.
But mostly just Lewis.
But mostly Lewis, which is fair.
I always forget until we do something like this that our personal fashion taste is very different.
Unbelievable.
Because the only thing that overlapped is that Ric Owens purple jumpsuit is one of my honorable mentions.
The sparkle jumpsuit is hi everyone. This is the last episode of Grid Walk. Thank you so much for coming to the podcast. It's been a great 30 episodes. This is the end of
my Lewis P3, if that changes anything.
No, that's not what your podium is.
Yeah.
This is why this show works. Anyway.
Okay, so rapid fire. Here are my 4 other honorable mentions. British GP Day 1, which was the custom white jumpsuit that had his number on the back. Saudi GP Day 3, this was where he wore the sleeveless black top with the tie, waist, incredible.
That's that black top.
Yes.
Yeah. It was on the chopping block. It was, yeah.
Yeah. By the way, these honorable mentions are in no particular order, but this is the order I wrote them down. This next honorable mention, technically, I don't know if it counts as a Paddock fit, but Miami Saturday night, he wore this Acne Studios top that was only had one button in it. It was like a tie-dye and the pink pants, and it just killed me.
She's going off. She's now leaving Paddock fits.
I just needed to. I needed to talk about that outfit. That's why it's not on the podium, though.
Worth mentioning.
Right. And then Zhou Guanyu, Kid Super, the art matching set from Australia Day 2.
That's your honorable mention. If the whole podium's not Lewis, then what else? I can't even think of any. That was the only Zhou outfit that I remembered.
And I loved that Joe outfit, but it didn't make me squeal as much as my P3 Joe outfit. P3 Monaco Day 1 Joe Guan Yu. The skirt pants. Dior, the Dior sleeveless moment, the skirt pants, and I screamed. Screamed. Because this was this man saying, I am here to make fashion statements in a way that is not just comfortable street style. P2 is Lewis Hamilton, Baku GP, Louis Vuitton, Kids Supper art. Face thing. I don't see, again, fashion. This screamed. I needed it in a dress version.
This reminds me a lot, and now I don't remember what. I mean, I feel like it's very similar to vibes like early on in the season when we had like the denim with the skeleton like painted in bleach. Hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, but I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not actually good at fashion. I can just tell you when something makes me squeal. This outfit, I was obsessed with. And apparently, I just really like this Kid Super collab that Louis Vuitton did, because my P1 is Miami GP Saturday, walking in with the sparkles.
I love this fit so much.
It's really hard because, like, I understand that he just went for sparkles for Miami GP weekend, but this is my version of the purple jumpsuit. So, like, the way you screamed about the purple jumpsuit on Sunday, this was me screaming about the sparkly, like, Louis Vuitton logos on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. And it's such an inspirational outfit. Pierre wore it to the fashion show at Paris Fashion Week.
Weeks later.
Yeah, no, I remember this day too. Yeah, all of the Miami GP fits. It was the full-on Eras Tour moments of all the sparkles. Lewis really was on something else in Miami, as so many of his outfits you reference have also been in Miami, but that's like, it asks for it. It's so the vibe of it, and he definitely took advantage of that setting, so.
Right. Year one, it was also the highlight of the year. When he did the full pink fit, like, yeah, and this year Lewis really understood, oh, it's going to be sunny and the paddock is going to be on the field so I can have sparkle moments, and it just, whole weekend.
The best, like, custom fits. There was also, I'm sure you saw it, like, he had a custom, like, Prada jumpsuit that was the yellow and the purple, and I was like, I want to pick this so bad. Lewis knows what he's doing, but again, you're new here. We talk about this quite often. And if you're not, you know this already. Favorite F1 races so far? We, again, mid-season. Next week, we're back in a race week. It's just a great time to reflect on the race weekends that we can just look at a little bit more fondly and maybe just made us a little bit less sad than other race weekends.
All right, I think we're going to alternate back and forth. I predict that we might have the same P1, but maybe I'll go first so you can end with your P1.
Okay. You know what? I'm actually feel like we may not. I don't know. We'll see where we're going.
I did this as like the race weekend as a whole, because if I only thought about the races, I wouldn't have a podium because it would just be
so
max.
We're going to probably have the same P1.
All right, wait, before we say anything, before we do this podium, leave in the comments below on the YouTube video what you think we are talking about as our P1, and if you guess correctly, I won't be that impressed, but I will be happy because it means you listen to the show. We
will provide you a theoretical trophy in the form of a trophy emoji because this show has zero budget. Thank you, goodbye.
Okay. So I do have an honorable mention, but I'm going to skip it. P3 for me was the Monaco GP. Flying cars. We spent the entire week hyping up, being like, Mercedes is bringing the B-Spec to Monaco. Like, the general craziness of it. Like, yes, it was frustrating to watch Lewis only be P4 and some other shenanigans, but everything else, that made it my P3.
My P3, Hungarian GP, Daniel Ricciardo's return. That's it. The only reason why, legitimately only reason why Daniel Ricciardo is back. There's no way Danny Rick making a comeback could not be on my podium.
Lewis was on pole.
I correct, and I'm telling, when I look back forever, I will remember that weekend as when, because Lewis will continue. I know I will see Lewis do greater things than when we saw him on pole that weekend, but I will remember that is the weekend that Daniel Ricciardo made his return. I know.
I just need to have a moment here where Nicole said, I'm putting the Hungarian GP only. You could have said I'm putting it at my P3 because Lewis was on pole and because Daniel Ricciardo's return.
It was Daniel Ricciardo's return weekend. It would have been on but it would have been on my podium if Lewis was not on pole. I'm being so honest right now.
No, I know, but the phrasing and the fact that you're like, who cares about Lewis being on pole? And I'm like, they could have both factored in.
Honestly, I just didn't want the Hungarian GP on my podiums.
All right, well, my P2, Silverstone. Lewis home race, Lewis podium at his home race. Yay, Silverstone.
My P2 is also Silverstone. Lewis home race on the podium. There you go.
We've talked enough about it. It's also just my favorite track, and it's always a good race weekend, and etc. All right, so my P1 is Lewis was on pole at the Hungarian GP.
And my P1 is Monaco because it was wild and there was flying cars. I didn't even count. I'm so disgruntled.
We had that whole conversation. I was so sure. Nicole, we literally sent each other voice notes screaming bloody murder. There were no words after the Hungarian GP. I was so sure we were both going to do Hungarian.
I was so sure we were going to be so hyped about the floor of the Red Bull.
I love us. This is great.
It's everything backwards and everything you get at the talk every single week.
That's so funny. My honorable mention, by the way, is Spain, because it was really fun to lean into the bit that Mercedes was back and there was the double podium, and now I think I look back and Spain is less fun now because of everything that's happened since, but in the moment, the Spanish GP was a hype time.
Yeah, it was, again, as I had on one of my other podiums before. It was a great podium party, but we don't have to talk about the aftermath.
Okay, If you guessed the Hungarian GP in the comments below, you're going to get a podium with a little lightning boat, or a little trophy with a little lightning boat. And if you guessed Monaco in the comments below, you'll get a podium with a little sunshine.
Hello, yay. Wow, look at that. So many things, so many opinions.
We were so sure that we had the same one.
Sure. We were so sure. Wow. Oh boy. The Italian Grand Prix was as equally surprising and not surprising. So my podiums for this week are moments that surprised me and did not surprise me. But we're going to start where it's potentially the most exciting, I think, with most surprising moments of the Italian GP, to me, in my personal opinion. My podium, not yours. I'm not proud of the
Are there
any
honorable mentions? Or just your
No,
podium?
there are not honorable mentions. I just thought of an honorable mention, but no, it's not.
Say it. No, you got to share it now. Now I need to know. I won't even give the fanfare, no pressure, what, but you have to share it now. What's the honorable mention?
Honorable mention? Carlos Sainz potentially being part bodyguard secret agent and running after robbers and retrieving a stolen watch post-race.
I'll give it the fanfare because it is worth discussing, and I just want to make it very known. Don't do that.
Don't steal. Don't just in general.
Well,
are
yeah,
you
but also
advising
if
Carlos not to chase the thieves? Are you advising people not to steal?
Well, I think advising people not to steal is obvious. Obviously, don't steal. But why do both Ferrari drivers, when they get a watch stolen, think the best thing to do is to chase after the thief? No.
And I'm sure it's insured. I don't know. But yeah, I
Even
just
if it's
suddenly
not
was
your
like, what?
life, a watch, don't, like, this is one of those things where don't listen to, like, if you idolize these drivers, that's great, but maybe don't listen to them in this case. Don't do this.
Apple Watch, if you get stolen, I'm letting you go. Bye. Like,
Okay, derail aside, what's your P3?
okay. So, my P3 moment that surprised me of Italian Grand Prix. Ferrari letting their drivers
I
race
can't
each
believe that's on
other,
my P3.
race Max, just in general. They participated and it was not an unbelievable nightmare. It really, wow.
Did you see how happy Charles was that he got to participate? He was like, I got to fight people. I got to go racing. And I was like, oh, poor Charles is having a bad year.
Just
He's excited about just racing.
the bar is so low. It is so low. My P2. Carlos and Charles not crashing into each other.
I agree. That's really surprising. I was so sure it was going to happen.
I had in our prediction competition, I had predicted Ferrari to have the most points of a team that is not Red Bull. And as soon as it was like that last lap, and I was like, not only is Carlos or Charles not going to make it on the podium, but they're both going to smack into each other, and there's going to be a double Ferrari DNF after this entire thing. I was like, I couldn't believe it. And then finally, when it all just like settled, and everyone was able to take a breath, and Charles went off track, everything was fine. Everyone was chill and great.
And I had Mercedes, so that would have been great for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had like a lot to root for in the whole time. And then I was just like, it's all about to just go into a dumpster fire. So surprised it didn't.
Always shocking with Ferrari.
And my P1, surprising moment of the Italian Grand Prix weekend. A Ferrari being on the podium. It happened. It really happened. And oh my goodness, of course it happened when he was dressed like a McDonald's employee.
Yeah. I would say equally surprising as well, and I was expecting this to be on your podium. The fact that Ferrari was able to not screw one of their drivers. I think all season, even if they've had a good result, the other driver got completely shafted.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw in that honorable mention because not only did they have someone on the podium, did they get to fight, did they get to have fun, this felt like a magical weekend just because both drivers didn't get totally screwed.
I had as my P2 literally them just being able to finish the race. And I was like, I guess I really want to target the moment that Charles almost made my heart stop completely. So that's where I really leaned into it. And then just, yeah, the overall magical, I don't know what was in the air at Monza, but Ferrari definitely took all of their bets, all their good luck for the weekend, the year, whatever, Monza. They loved Monza. Great Monza. I've given my podium of my most surprising moments from the Italian Grand Prix. So I obviously have to follow up with the least surprising or moments that I found not surprising at all. And I completely 100% expected these all to occur. Honorable mention, Ferrari designing really ugly race suits for Monza. I wanted to say it was an improvement from last year, except last year had black fireproofs, and that's it. So I'm not surprised, I'm just disappointed. All right, P3 of not surprising moments of the Italian Grand Prix. Alpine's performance. We were unsure slightly, but kind of anticipated exactly what went down. And, I mean, we just ranted about engine freezing enough. You know exactly what went down with Alpine. So, wasn't that big of a shocker. Still sad for Esty Bestie, though. P2. Not surprising. Italian Grand Prix moment. Max breaking the consecutive race win record. Yes, it's my P2. I did completely anticipate it happening. So you must be wondering, what could possibly be P1? My unbelievable continued grieving for Daniel Ricciardo's injury. It felt the whole weekend. Liam Lawson did a really pretty great job for a full weekend. And then when Yuki didn't even make it through the formation lap, I can't. It just kept getting worse, but it was not a surprise. My heart is broken, and I just keep seeing that no one knows. Who knows? I don't know. I'm sad, but
I'm really impressed that you managed to make a podium of the least surprising things of the weekend, and it wasn't just all Red Bull. So shout out to you. That was a really good podium, and all definitely things that weren't surprising at all. But I think your order is pretty spot on.
yeah, again, knew Max was gonna do it, but I knew I was gonna be grieving even more. Yeah, I mean, like
he could have crashed.
the hope alarm of me, the smooth operator fan of me was like, it's gonna happen.
I mean, the thing is if it was going to happen, I really thought it was going to be because, like, a Ferrari would take him down with them. I didn't think it was because Carlos or Charles was going to win. To be clear, I thought we were going to
Everyone get, like, just goes down, else. And then it's Checo.
Right. Like, I didn't... Like, there is no hope of a Ferrari winning in my brain, but there was that, like, tiny % chance that, like, there's a reason this hasn't happened in the history of F1.
It's a Ferrari nightmare, but it's a Ferrari nightmare, but a miracle of them just stopping Max from winning. Not actually. I think
we all would have celebrated that. I think any Tifosi would have been okay with that. Like, I think we all just would have been like, okay. And then Seb gets to keep his record. Like, you know, I don't know.
Well, yeah. We're not surprised, and Daniel Ricciardo is still not driving.
My first podium of the Singapore GP is my favorite merch, liveries, helmets, one-off Singapore specials, I guess is what I would call it. And Nicole's going to be mad because nowhere on this podium is Lando's helmet.
Boo! Oh my god, I am so disappointed. If I had this, it honestly probably... well, there's a Gulf livery. I don't know. Maybe potentially P1. I was obsessed with Lando's helmet. It was... Lisa Frank threw up on it. It was great. Okay,
I liked it. It is getting this current, like, casual honorable mention that... And I knew how much you liked it, so if I went this entire podium without saying it, you would be upset.
Yeah, so. Okay. Well, now everyone knows my feelings on it. Continue.
Yep. I was disappointed in the lack of sparkly helmets this year for this. Because last year, almost every driver just, like, took their helmet and made it sparkly. So I want to just put out one complaint before my podium that no one really did that. Boo! All right, P3. Zhou Guanyu's Year of the Rabbit helmet. I just like that he does a year of every single year. And I really like that Zhou Guanyu always does things that are around his culture. And I just think that's really, really missing in F1. Him and Yuki both, like, lean into where they're from. And in a very European-dominated sport, I just love to see it. Plus, it's a cool helmet. It's a really fun, cool helmet. P2, Checo's helmet for his 250th race. It was just fun. I like that he's commemorating a moment, and as much as we've given him a lot of crap this year, it's still cool that he's in the sport. No, but I genuinely just really like the helmet design, and that's why it's here. And
Way to go on being here!
I didn't mean to make it a backhanded compliment. That wasn't my intention. It's been a shit day. Okay. Alright, moving into P1. Of course it has to be the Gulf livery, and then the Gulf suits. Even better. Oh my god.
Perfection.
Absolute perfection. And I like that the whole pit crew got them. It's the blue, the baby blue color is so good, and I really, really wish Gulf, whatever they're asking for, I need you to pay for it year round so we get these year round. Thank you.
Powder blue is beautiful. So some of my favorite podiums that we get to do for race weekends is favorite quotes of the weekend. Because between radios, interviews, fan interactions, boy oh boy, do these drivers say the darndest things.
That's the nicest way I've ever heard it being. The darndest things.
They say
Like,
the darndest things.
I feel like you need to be like in the South with some like sweet tea. Like,
Oh, well,
shucks, those
well,
boys.
this is also pop culture reference to the, oh, well, I guess Bill Cosby used to host this, I think. I don't know. There's the show Kids Say the Darndest Things, and it's like a great show from the 90s. But I think we should probably bring this back with F1 drivers. Now we're on a tangent that is so far and away from where we need it to be. Of my quotes, my top 3 favorite quotes of the Singapore GP weekend. So, my P3 is a little bit of a cheat because it is not a single quote. It is anything about the lizard.
Yeah.
Pierre's Godzilla is back. Charles, Lizard is having his best life. Checo just taking the sunshine. Lando saying exactly what I would have said if I was an F1 driver. There's a lizard thingy on turn 8. All of them, every time. I was waiting for them. They were great. It was incredible. Shout out to the lizard.
Well, also rest in peace to the lizard, because I'm pretty sure it was discovered that Fernando Alonso ran it over.
And that's why Aston Martin had a bad weekend.
Karma.
My P2 favorite quote of Singapore GP weekend, Max's post-quali radio. And I quote, I don't know if you saw that, but that was shocking. Absolutely shocking experience. End quote. That
man is so dramatic.
I want that tattooed. I want the literal radio tattooed. I love it. Catch me saying absolutely shocking experience over and over again, forever and ever.
Angry villain Max, best Max. Max is a better character for the show when he is cursing his mind out on the radio.
It's so fun. There were so many great radios, and I had limited myself to one Max Verstappen temper tantrum quote. So, my P1 quote of the weekend. Fans asking Liam Lawson, are you in trouble with Red Bull yet? Fans interacting always give me my absolute favorite driver quotes. Basically anything they say. I don't think they're really thinking when they're being spoken to by fans. Liam signing a bunch of autographs day after quali, race day, duh. And a fan is filming him saying, hey, are you in trouble with Red Bull yet from yesterday? And Liam responds, not yet. Incredible. Iconic. He probably will not have a seat next year, and maybe it'll be Daniel Ricciardo, fingers crossed. And that's okay, because that was iconic. Thank you, Liam. I've gained so much respect for you this weekend.
He said the quiet thing out loud. All right, final podium of the Singapore GP. And it's what I'm calling is best media of the weekend. So just things teams, drivers, people put out into the media ether that I just loved. This one does have an honorable mention. My honorable mention is the Ferrari Oppenheimer edit.
Someone spent so much time on that.
Ferrari, in my opinion, sometimes is just too buttoned up, but this is a way that they can be buttoned up and fun and lean into pop culture. I really liked it. It was so good. P3, Red Bull's The Max Verstappen Podcast Will Return tweet. Look, we give Red Bull a lot of crap for a lot of things, but they know how to have fun on social media, and I'm glad that this weekend, as bad as it was, gave them an opportunity to put out a stellar tweet.
I just feel like they had that sit in the drafts in case Max ever lost.
Right. And I also just appreciated that they were vague and they said soon, because I would also like it to return soon, but maybe not this weekend. P2, everything that Alex Albon did for his launch. So I don't think that this, it wasn't in the weekend that he did his great boardroom video with all his pets, but I just loved Fernando Alonso and Yuki wearing the shoes and all the fun things he did with his girlfriend, and he really leaned into, I'm releasing this fun merch item and I'm just going to talk about it all weekend. So I enjoyed it. And last but not least, P1 Best Media of the F1 weekend is the F1 Juniors broadcast. kids are absolute rock stars. The adult in the room, who I apologize, I didn't look up your name, you are fantastic at corralling them, but you're not talking down to them. He's just like directing them in the right direction, giving them cues. I learned more on the F1 Juniors broadcast than I've ever learned anywhere else because they're not dumbing down the sport. They're just talking through things. I loved every single second of it. Every time it's offered, I will only be watching F1 Juniors from now on.
Just 100% hope we get more F1 Junior opportunities, more opportunities to have like broadcasts. I mean, even more heads up. I mean, it was a very pleasant surprise to be like, oh my God, we're going to get F1 Juniors broadcast, and didn't even know necessarily like what that meant until basically Friday when they announced it. So exciting. It makes me very hopeful for where they're going with the sport, that they're going to continue to do this. And I foresee it becoming more available and more regular. And oh my gosh, my Sundays are already going to be a lot more fun and exciting. And the avatars. Avatars are great. Avatars are wonderful. Avatars. Liam Lawson's looks a little older than I think it should look, but that's okay.
It was a rush job. It was a rush job.
They just took Kevin Magnussen and took away the facial hair.
You're right. That is what it is. Did Cam watch F1 Juniors?
I don't know if he has yet, but next time I see my favorite 7-year-old, we'll sit down and watch it, and I will definitely make sure to show him F1 Juniors, or at least some clips of it, because I know he'll absolutely adore it.
Yeah, you have to report back on what he thinks, because, like, well, we are definitely not the target audience, even though I think we are benefiting from the fact that it exists. I would love to hear from an actual 7-year-old.
Yes. I'm sure he'll love it, because especially he's been reading his Red Racer books like nonstop. It's his new favorite bedtime stories books. Is his A to Z's of everything in racing. It's so exciting and fun. And he's like, I know what a halo is. And I was like, I love this. So, really exciting, really hopeful. We'll keep you posted. Report back when I speak to the 7-year-old.
And in that fashion, our first podium of the Japanese GP is the best reality TV show moments of the weekend.
Oh. Okay, let's do it.
All right, I do have an honorable mention.
We love a good honorable mention.
And that is Lewis Hamilton teasing what seems to be likely his new venture, which is some kind of alcohol line in the press conferences.
Is it alcoholic? I know for sure he was enjoying it in the interviews after the race, but I couldn't quite tell if it was inebriation or just general vibes.
I can't think of what else you would drink in that type of glass on the rocks. Like, I'm imagining if it is like a new Monster or something, and he chose to tease it in, what is that, like a highball glass? Oh no, that's the tall one. What is...
Well, it was definitely like the shorter. To me, right. I mean, as a whiskey drinker, I immediately was like, that looks like a glass of whiskey, but there's no way that's what Lewis is drinking. So my brain went to like a kombucha, but I like the idea of a teasing of a new Monster flavor collab.
I like the idea that he was drinking alcohol in the press conference and the drama, but either way, the drama of, you know how we're going to tease this new venture? Let's just give him a glass for a Sky Sports interview.
I mean, it was fantastic, honestly. An entirely new meme format was born as a result of that, so we're enjoying it thoroughly.
Yep. All right. Actual podium here. P3. Toto Wolff calling in from post-surgery recovery to make the car switch on track.
How is that only your P3? I was so prepared for that to be like top of the podium, because that is reality TV, written reality TV.
It was a dramatic weekend. I like to imagine that he was actually in a hospital bed just for again, we're painting a reality TV show moment here. He's sitting there in his hospital bed watching everything happen and gets so infuriated that he feels the need to call up the team. I think in reality he was probably just sitting at Brackley, like, in the war room.
We should take it even one step further. Not only should we imagine him in a hospital bed, but let's imagine he's sort of under anesthesia, right? And perhaps all of this is some drug-induced fever dream. He doesn't. I had this crazy dream where we were racing, and I told George to get out of the way of Lewis. Did that really happen? Is that something that happened? That's what I imagine.
Yeah, FaceTiming. He's like, tell George to move. It's basically like after getting your wisdom teeth out and you just completely are just a different version of yourself is completely what I'm imagining. Toto yelling at the screen and calling a FaceTime and having to do all of that.
I like that option more though, because then that explains why for some reason they haven't done this all season. Like I feel like there's been so many opportunities when he's been at track where they've needed to switch the cars and put Lewis in front and they haven't pulled the trigger. So like maybe the rationale for why it took this long into the season to finally make that change is that Toto needed to be under the influence of some kind of anesthesia to like be in his right frame of mind and switch the cars.
Probably.
All right, P2. Pierre Gasly flipping off Esteban Ocon after having to flip the cars back at the end of the race. Nothing's more reality TV show to me than like a silent moment that felt like we could put music over, because at least he was smart enough to not turn on his radio to say whatever he's saying out loud, and just a recognizable gesture for all to see.
Particularly Alpine, I think you could just say, and lately is a reality TV show. The back and forth of this weekend and the discussion of the switching of drivers, and then one thing after another, I just can't see anything positively building at Alpine, even though weirdly enough this was more one of their positive weekends. It still just like is screaming to me something like trouble's afoot. I don't know, it just all seems a little bit still like a mess over there.
Yeah, I didn't think it was possible to gesticulate in French, but somehow Pierre managed to do that. It was very emotive, and to be clear, he followed team orders. Let it not be forgotten. He may have been displeased, but he did follow team orders. So
I think we had 2 teammate implosions this week, and if you asked me even a couple weeks ago which one would be more dramatic, I probably would have said the Alpine one. But he immediately followed the team orders. Even his quotes to the press afterwards weren't really that extreme. He just seemed upset about the communication, which rightfully so. I think the team should have told him that he would have to switch back so then to avoid the chaos. But I just think everything, George on the radio refusing to switch the cars just trumped anything that was happening at Alpine this week.
We'll get there. We'll certainly get to George.
No, give your thoughts.
Go ahead.
I want to hear your George Russell thoughts.
Look, George Russell is an extraordinary driver. He has been the de facto number one in every team he's been a part of since the very beginning of his career. He's never actually been in a situation where he might actually be questioned as being the number one or not being the number one. And I think 2022 gave everyone, George included, perhaps a false impression of what the dynamics of the team actually were. Look, Lewis Hamilton is an incredible driver. He's an incredibly resilient person, but I don't think we can deny the psychological impact that the farcical Abu Dhabi 2021 Grand Prix had on him specifically, and also immediately being saddled with a terrible car, the worst car of his career, arguably. And so those things probably affected him in ways that were hard to quantify, whereas George is coming into a new team. Even if the W13 was the worst car Lewis had ever driven, it was probably the best car George had ever driven. Let's be real. And
coming that one stint in the W11, W12.
Yeah, except that one, yes, in Bahrain, was it? But essentially, that is a situation where George could find his feet and do extremely well. But what we've seen gradually over time is a shifting of power. And it's happening slowly and subtly, but it's definitely happening. Lewis has always been the number one at that team. They always have the ability to fight equally, which is what most teams try to do. But Lewis is an incredibly fast driver, and George, I think, believed early on in the partnership that he actually might be able to take Lewis most of the time and actually be able to establish himself as a new number one in the team. And as everyone is slowly realizing that's probably not going to be the case, George is having to grapple with the reality that actually Lewis Hamilton in prime form is almost unstoppable, especially in the same car.
Yeah, there's a reason he's won the championships he's won. Hi, Parker.
Yeah, sorry if you hear my dog. He likes to, especially when we start
he agrees. He agrees.
Oh, he does.
Lewis Hamilton's
very
go.
Passionate.
Lewis Hamilton's go.
He gets very passionate about Lewis. He gets very passionate about Red Bull, everything. So
I think that something that is not discussed enough, because it is so straightforward and simple to look at qualifying, because qualifying, it's easier to distill down to driver skill, is how difficult race pace is to achieve. Like, Mercedes aside, like, everyone can tell that Oscar Piastri is very talented and really fast, but Lando Norris has so much more experience with the Pirelli tires and so much more experience driving an F1 car, and then look at the pace differential this weekend between him and Oscar in the race. And I think George and a lot of these young drivers are built to be really fast in qualifying, and then the learning curve comes in the race. So when you actually look at pace times between the two of them, and even a lot of last year, Lewis was faster in the race. So I think a lot of this season is everyone collectively coming to the understanding that I think a lot of us who watch closely knew last year, which is as fast as George can be in qualifying, and he seems to lean to setting up his car to be fast in qualifying as well, based on trends, like we don't know for sure, that isn't always going to play out in the race, which means most of the time we end up with this annoying situation on track that we saw this weekend, which is we need to let Lewis through. Like, it is very clearly by lap times that he is the faster driver of the two. And it's just...
Yeah, I mean, the added wrinkle here, of course, is that in George's case, he was also on a different strategy than Lewis was. He was on a one-stop strategy. Granted, he wanted that because, he was gambling on a late safety car that never came. And essentially, it put him in a situation where there's really no question that Lewis is going to be faster than him, Sainz is going to be faster than him. The tire differential was such that even with the aid of Lewis giving George DRS, it really wasn't going to help terribly much. So that's... Yes, I do agree that Lewis's race pace is incredible. You mentioned the younger drivers perhaps favoring more qualifying pace than race pace. The one big outlier in that would probably be Max Verstappen. He has always been a race pace monster, like preternaturally skilled at race pace. It's actually his qualifying historically that hasn't been quite as good. And this year especially, he's turned that up in a big way. But his race pace has always been fantastic. I've always ranked the best two drivers on the grid in terms of race pace is Lewis Hamilton 1, and then very close behind Max.
We still do have a P1 for reality TV show moments.
I think I know what it is. Just to be clear, I think I know what it is.
All right. Well, it is the dramatic 12-second zoom in to Perez waiting in his car in the garage. There were cars on track. This was not free practice. We didn't need to spend 10 seconds watching Perez sit in his car, but it was great TV direction. And it was the reality TV show moment of the weekend, in my opinion.
The clip of Max coming in pit and the cameraman was like, here it is, zooming in and then panning over to Checo in his car. I saw a tweet that said, this is the episode of The Office. This really was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
There is no way that cameraman has not seen The Office. I mean, it is just too perfect. The timing is too perfect. A hard zoom on Checo's face. Let's get the emotion. That's what we saw. And so, pure comedy. And honestly, look, Checo's been having a rough time at Red Bull recently. I think all of us have been seeing that play out in real time. It's seemingly getting worse over time, which is kind of a problem. But that specific incident might actually be the inciting incident to make him leave. Like just becoming meme-ified to that extent is enough to just add on to whatever else is going on. And yes, he probably is fine to stay in for 2024, but I don't think he's going to stay after that. And believe it or not, he's actually lasted longer against Max Verstappen than anyone else Max has ever gone against. Only a couple of races ago, he passed Daniel Ricciardo for the most number of races as Verstappen's teammate. So love him or hate him, he's been around the longest in that regard.
I was saying a couple episodes ago that I think he's going to leave. Like, he could go drive for a midfield team, probably get a good final paycheck. They would be so happy to have him in that car. And he doesn't have to deal with all of this. All of us talking about this.
And just to be clear, part of this is Adrian Newey's incredible designs. He's always built incredibly fast cars, but they can be tricky to drive sometimes. They have a lot of aero balance forward to rear under braking, and they're very pointy cars, but they're very quick. So he could be just as fast, if not faster, in a more normal car.
I've gotten to the point where I've started to feel bad for him. Because now people are talking about him as if he can't really drive. And we know he can. He's just having a rough go at it.
Yeah, I definitely had a different, I guess not a different opinion, but prior to the Daniel Ricciardo handbraking of it all, I definitely felt, I thought there was going to be a switcheroo before the end of the season, and now it definitely kind of just seems like AlphaTauri was like, we have three drivers, and next year we'll kind of figure it out, and it just seems like it'll all fall into place kind of easily.
Okay, but going back to the office point, I now want the next season of Drive to Survive. Like, I think we have tons of dramatic seasons. What if they shot this season of Drive to Survive like The Office? Because
Oh man,
that would revitalize it. It would be so fun.
No
We're gonna
more
include
dramatic,
this-
like black background. They'll put everyone in like a Paddock conference room or something.
we're gonna have that. We're gonna have Lando breaking Max's trophy in Hungary, and then we're gonna have Max breaking his own trophy at the next race. After that, there are so
They have
many
a
office
meeting
clips.
trying to fix it with some crazy glue, and then it's a whole just yeah.
Well, I have thoughts on that too, but that's another story for another time. Basically, it's like that trophy took 6 months to make originally, but it was repaired in like 2 weeks. So they made a new one in 2 weeks. So
How did that happen?
Is it
Someone
6
didn't
months?
sleep.
Well, is it 6 months or is it 2 weeks? How long does it take to make that trophy? Anyway, it's a side story.
Okay, so it is always one of my favorite podiums to bring after every race weekend is my favorite quotes because drivers always say ridiculous things. I think I'll just continue to say they say the darndest things because they do just say the darndest things, whether it's on the radio or in any interview. So I will start with a lovely honorable mention from Max Verstappen of the questioning of Red Bull's success with the technical directive. So,
Okay, give us the quote.
when being asked about everyone thinking Red Bull was not that great in Singapore, and that's all because of the technical directive, and I quote, "But I think they can go suck on an egg," end quote. Just such colorful, only Max Verstappen type phrasing.
I mean, it's
Angry
very,
Max
it's very.
is the best Max.
I was just going to say it's very evocative. It's very evocative phrasing. I have emotions that are being caused by that, but
It
yeah,
gives a really specific image.
maybe it sounds better in Dutch. Who knows? Yeah.
You needed to say it in Dutch.
I'm sure. I imagine him wanting to say something different and then just pivoting at the end because he realized he couldn't say what he actually wanted to say. But villain Max is best Max. Like, Max is the best character in the show when I think he's being fully himself. And himself is a little angry and aggressive. And that's much better, in my opinion.
Absolutely shocking experience.
Right.
I don't even like podcasts.
You had that ready to go, huh?
We have it ready to go.
And I forgot. I didn't time it well there.
Well, you can go,
Sneaking it in.
go right
All
ahead.
right, so now headed into my lovely actual podium. A P3, Fernando Alonso not too happy about his strategy choices. You fed me to the lions. The drama just really hit the nail on the head. Was really, I felt that. I honestly felt like I was being fed to the lions while watching this GP. So
Yeah, I think we all know how fantastic and praising Fernando can be of his team when they're serving him well in the moment. But when they're not, he can be one of the most spiky characters in the paddock. So we'll see how that relationship develops.
I don't even like podcasts.
so ridiculous. Okay, my P2 driver I'm continuing to love more and more every week, and I can't believe I'm saying that. Liam Lawson, post-race radio. Complimenting him on his drive. His team was really hyped. Gave him really great compliments about his first lap, and he says, I had so much caffeine before the race, it really lit me up. And that's how I feel every morning with my coffee, with my Celsius.
Wow, Liam Lawson on your quotes podium, back-to-back races.
I know. He's really here to impress. I mean, Daniel Ricciardo's not saying a lot on radios right now, so it'll hopefully come back soon.
Guys, I'm very impressed with Liam Lawson, both with his off-track antics, but more specifically how he's been driving. He had every opportunity to make a big mess of this. Short notice coming in under challenging circumstances, and he's thrived. So I think it's going to be a bit of a shame he's not on the grid next year.
And arguably in the most difficult car on the grid right now.
Good point.
Alfa Romeo might argue with you there, depending on the week that it is. But yeah, we haven't necessarily seen a ton of success with AlphaTauri this year at all. So seeing them be in points with Liam and the experience that he's been in, unbelievable. Again, Daniel Ricciardo, cover your ears, as I am a Daniel Ricciardo fan, but I gotta give Liam credit there.
Well, okay, so we know what the AlphaTauri lineup should be for next year, based on what they announced. I say should be because I don't trust Red Bull until anyone just shows up and actually starts driving a car. But Bryson, I know Nicole's thoughts because we talked about this last week, but for you, what are the chances do you think that Liam is actually in a car next year? Either because someone who's supposed to be in the AlphaTauri car ends up in the Red Bull seat, or Liam ends up in the Red Bull seat, which I think would be a little bit of a stretch, and Red Bull should know by now not to do that. But what chance do you think he has of actually ending up driving a car next year?
I mean, I think that Yuki Tsunoda specifically is someone who Red Bull hasn't really shown the confidence in to race against Max Verstappen as his teammate. So I don't see him going to Red Bull. I could see in one permutation Daniel Ricciardo going to Red Bull, either immediately, but probably more likely for 2025. He has experience with the team. He's proven to be quick in the right type of car, and it makes sense for them from a PR perspective. So Daniel's seat is really taking up the seat that Liam Lawson would take. I think if we actually see him anywhere, it would be a move to Williams, believe it or not. And again, it hurts me as an American, bleeding red, white, and blue American kid to say that Logan Sargent isn't really working out at Williams, but I think that's the objective fact of the matter. And it's not even the lack of pace against his teammate that's the biggest threat to him. It's actually the crashes. And this is the same thing that caught Mick Schumacher out. I mean, the crashes in a cost cap era for a lower team or midfield team are deadly. I mean, those are the types of things that are literally preventing the team from upgrading both cars on schedule because they can't afford to build the parts for both cars because they've spent money on repairing cars out of crashes. And I think it has to be something like 3 crashes out of the last 4 or 5 races, something like that, either in the race or in some kind of free practice session or qualifying. And this is expensive. And as we know, Williams is not a heavily funded team. They're certainly on an upward trajectory, but they face very much the same problem that Aston Martin has faced earlier parts of the year, which is you need to have 2 drivers competing at a very high level to be competitive in Formula One. I mean, if you look at Aston Martin versus McLaren, for example, Lando Norris very recently said he believes they will ultimately beat Aston Martin in the Constructors' Championship precisely because they have 2 very strong drivers, even if the cars on the balance of the entire season might be very similar. So by that same logic, Williams is getting to the point now where the car is ready. The car is ready for better caliber drivers, and they may not want to appear as ruthless as Red Bull. They may want to give Logan another year just to make sure for sure that he is or is not the right person for them, and I expect that to happen ultimately. But what I've seen right now, Logan is quickly becoming the new Latifi, and that's not good for anyone, honestly.
And it's hard to work out of that reputation. F1 ends up being such a reputation sport where normally what happens in the first 4 races, everyone's like, well, that's the narrative for the season. Even if it doesn't pan out that way, and when you crash 3 out of the last 4 races, even if he has a great next 6 races, it might be too little too late. And I think whether or not Liam gets that seat, because doing a 1-year loaner from Red Bull might not be something Williams is willing to invest in. I think Liam Lawson is the reason Logan Sargent is going to lose his seat, because Logan has had all preseason, all the prep, all of the year, and then Liam comes in and performs like that, and this difficult AlphaTauri is not, it's not, at least not making him look good.
Yeah, especially after the Nick DeVries of it all, and seeing that, you know, they were able to then bring Liam in and him be as successful, it can kind of send those signals. But yes, I mean, this week seeing the F1 graphic of every, you know, team solidified except for that silhouette at Williams, and then the list of $3.2 million in crash damages. This is the spending, and just seeing that difference. Yeah, estimated. Yes,
I need to put the asterisks. Everyone's just estimating. Who
estimated,
knows?
estimated. Of course,
it could be.
But,
it could be more, to be honest. But yeah.
Right. Yeah,
it's definitely a lot more than Max. That's really for sure that I can confirm. Not looking good for Logan, I think, but it will be interesting to see where that falls. I'm still hoping we get a Mick Schumacher somewhere. I miss Mick on the grid, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon after Liam's performance. That, I think, has solidified that. And
right.
I have my P1, my favorite quote of the weekend.
I don't even like podcasts. They make me fall asleep.
It's an F1 podcast. First off, I love podcasts. They don't make me fall asleep. This is just the evidence that I have of Max Verstappen doesn't fully get the joke, or he's just like, we're not going to acknowledge the joke at all. He's like, let's call it something else. I'm like, no, just lean into the bit. But of course not, because it's Max Verstappen, and he doesn't like podcasts. But I hope we all just continue to host and encourage the Max Verstappen podcast, even though he doesn't like them.
It's an extremely funny meme that I enjoy probably more than I should, but we should remind ourselves it is a meme born of on-track domination, right? The joke is it's always Max Verstappen, and who else is going to join him this weekend? Well, he's definitely going to be there, but who else is there? I think, obviously, there's some lingering bad feelings from Abu Dhabi 2021, and, of course, the cost cap infringement that Red Bull had. But we can't ignore the caliber of team that they are currently, that everyone is surprised when they actually get something wrong on a weekend. Singapore came out of nowhere for everyone, precisely because of the extremely high bar that Red Bull has set. So, you know, the team is operating at an extremely high level. I do think eventually they can be caught, but that's probably a discussion for a little bit later.
They make me fall asleep.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. I just needed the opportunity for the sounder. Yeah, I mean, we opened the show talking about how dominant they've been, and it's been incredibly impressive. I just want Max to have a little more fun with it. Like, I think he should be celebrating more.
But
have fun with it.
And that's just who he is, and that's who he'll continue to be. But yeah, it's definitely the meme of it all, really leaning into it. I mean, even the fact that when Red Bull last week was, you know, creating their meme of the Max Verstappen podcast will return soon. Like, they were still very confident in their return, and they knew what was going, you know, and it's the one-off week, and sorry you couldn't set another consecutive race record and everything like that. But
and shout out to Oscar Piastri for leaning into the bit, both a couple weeks ago where he said that his goal for the season was to be a guest on the Max Verstappen podcast, and then this week he just said he was happy to be a guest on it, and
Oscar
he's become so likable.
Oscar is social media gold. I think he probably gets it from his mom.
Oh, those interactions of, like, she's like, someone get me on a plane. And Zach Brown's like, I'll get you there. Can I throw away these trophies? Yeah, there's a lot of really great leverage on social media. They know what they're doing. And, I mean, well-deserved podium. I feel like I've been waiting for Oscar to finally be able to get on a podium all season, and it felt really good to see it finally.
Yeah, just one point I would say on that, you know, Oscar was sitting out last year as a reserve driver, and even though that may have been painful in the moment, the reality is if you come onto the scene in Formula One and deliver right away, no one's going to care if you're a reserve driver for a year. If you're starting in the beginning of a long and illustrious Formula One career, he signed until the end of 2026 now. Yep. No one's going to care if he's a reserve driver for a year. So if we have someone that we do lose this year, you know, that we want to be on the grid, and they happen to be a reserve driver, it's not the end of the world. They can get a seat somewhere else and potentially perform.
Otmar may have a little bit more to say about all of that deal and how that went down.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on Gridwalk today and giving all of your insights about this and having a lot of fun doing podiums with us. So if you don't already follow him, make sure you follow Bryson at Natural Paradigm, which my brain says differently than it's supposed to say out loud.
Paradigm. Natural
Yes, that is
paradigm.
exactly what my brain says every time. And I have
Every time it comes up.
Yep.
You put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. That's what happened there.
But you are welcome back on Gridwalk anytime you want to come chat F1 with us. Thank you so much.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me on as the inaugural guest of your podcast. I always enjoy talking F1, whether I'm doing it just by myself or with other people. It's great to talk F1 with people. And I really wanted to just say I appreciate your energy. I appreciate your enthusiasm of bringing F1 to greater fan bases and being able to share the love of the sport that all of us have. And I wish you guys a lot of success in your podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bryson.
My first podium of the race weekend is time for us to celebrate Oscar Piastri as the bright shining light of this crappy race weekend, admittedly. But Oscar had a great weekend, so we need to start the show with celebrating him before we just complain about everything else, essentially.
Yeah, he deserves it. He deserves the actual celebration and positivity that this race had. Kind of all the only bit of it.
So, before I get into the podium, this is my favorite Oscar moments of the weekend. Now, of course, him getting pole for the sprint shootout was exciting, even though it's technically not a pole. Of course, him winning the sprint was the highlight of the weekend. But everyone knows that. So putting that P1 on the podium felt less fun. So these are three of my favorite, chaoticness things that happened with Oscar this weekend. And so those two obvious, on-track things aside, I wouldn't describe any of the things on my podium here as on-track.
I didn't even mean to do that. I'm just so excited about all the
moment.
Oscar things. So it just was, we're getting ready early.
All right. P3 in my favorite Oscar moments of the weekend was him posting his own office meme. So Oscar had his P3 in normal qualifying revoked because of track limits, so he lost the lap time. He became P6, but McLaren didn't unpost their P3 graphic, and Oscar replied on Twitter and posted him the office-y meme where he turns to the camera and it zooms in on his face. If on YouTube, I will put it on the screen beneath the photo, because everyone's like, McLaren, you should take this down, and even Oscar was like, I think you should take this down.
Incredible. Oscar's internet presence was on another level this weekend.
Speaking of, my P2, P1, P2, P6. So similarly, Oscar was in the photo for the top three in quali this week because they couldn't find Lewis, so Oscar just stuck around. And then he posted the photo with the caption, P1, P2, P6, and then the shrug emoji. And I was on the floor. Way to lean into it.
He really did. Part-time comedian, part-time F1 driver.
If you asked me at the beginning of the season, if by this point Oscar would have come out of his shell to this degree, I wouldn't have expected this at all, but I love every minute of it. His chaotic presence in this quiet, understated way. This is not on my podium, but honorable mention aside here, Oscar's reaction to winning the sprint race that was so monotone deserves recognition for my favorite Oscar moments of the weekend.
He uses phrases like, golly gee, oh gosh, oh, and not in a way, and not in the George Russell way of language. There's something different about it that just feels so innocent and just oh, matter of fact, oh yeah, I guess that's how this is.
Right. You won the sprint. You won your first race in F1. Cool, thanks guys for all the hard work. That was fun. Liked that. Woo.
Oh wow, that's so great. I'm so happy to hear how that all went down.
I love it. I think at some point he goes, I think I like the P1 board. Yes. I think so too, Oscar. It's so great. But that is not actually on my podium because there were too many good Oscar moments this weekend. My P1 is after he got pole in the sprint shootout, and he says, I think I'm going to give the FIA 5 minutes to confirm. It can't be easy to be interviewed and told in the interview that your P3 is removed, but then to like turn it into such a great quote and like retort the next day. And also, I think we should all just give the FIA a breather all the time. It was pointed, it was spot on, it was funny. 10 out of 10 Oscar. Best moment of the Oscar Piastri weekend, not including actually winning the sprint.
His banter of leaning into the like, well, I guess, you know, hopefully we'll have another redo of this interview. Him leaning into all of that, A+. Never seen anything like it. Drivers take notes.
Things that happened this race weekend that had me just going, WTF. Really? Like, it's not even things... we're talking a lot in the show today about things that were frustrating or inefficient. I wouldn't say these fall into the frustrating category. These are things that just have a loading screen on my head where it's like, really? Like, this sport is this way? Really? This is what's happening right now? Okay, great. We'll lean into it. In P3, Max winning the championship as soon as Perez crashed out of the sprint. Such a WTF moment. It felt like a very fitting way for this season of all seasons to end, but having to listen to the F1 TV broadcasters go, oh, well, that means Max Verstappen is the driver's champion, and they were like really trying to get into it. It was the least like exciting way for this whole thing to come to a conclusion in a season that has not been exciting competition wise.
It felt like the next clip in like the Office meme clip from like the last race of, you know, here's Max coming into pit and here's Checo in the car. Like, it just totally felt like it would be the next transition moment of like, okay, and he wins because Checo crashed.
P2 moments that had me going, really? WTF. The fact that they didn't have the trophy ready for Max. We knew going into this weekend that he needed to score, he needed P6 or above in the sprint. No one thought that he was winning the championship this weekend. They've had weeks of warning, and they didn't have the trophy? I don't understand this sport sometimes.
Did you really think? Like, come on. Like, let's be, like, a little realistic. Like, come on. You're not... I mean, I guess maybe... I don't know. It's dumb? Maybe... I don't know.
As an aside, poor Oscar. But, like, they didn't even celebrate Max well. Like, yeah, they made the whole thing of this whole world champion thing. No one could hand him a trophy. We watched the president of the FIA rush to give him a sprint P2 trophy in the wrong order, by the way. Like, F1, if you haven't noticed, has like a very specific order of how they hand out trophies, and it always starts with P1. But Mohammed bin Salem like rushed and gave Max P2, and then you see Stefano Domenicali, who is the president of F1, panic and then give Oscar the P1 trophy after that. The whole thing was chaos. Why was there no championship trophy there ready? I don't understand.
It felt like everyone was talking about Oscar, but every light was screaming Max, and then it was like not... I was like, what are we watching right now? How is there no trophy? Why does it feel like everyone's arguing over who's going to give everyone like a sprint race trophy, and why is no one prepared for like everyone knew what was going to happen today?
Right. And then I am disappointed baked into this, like what WTF is happening here. Like, Oscar's first race win, even though it's sprint and like that whole thing aside, we're not going to get any iconic celebrations from that because he wasn't even allowed up on the little winning stage thing. All he did was like slowly get out of his car and walk over and shake the hands of everyone's team, which honestly felt a little fitting. And then the photo that, they always take the race winning photo at the end, there was Max's face behind it. It wasn't even an Oscar P1 celebration.
Yep, there it was everywhere. It just was let's celebrate Max at the sprint race. It all felt very strange and confusing. It was a marketing nightmare.
WTF is this sport?
Like, who wants to also, it felt really weird to have, like, be a confirmed driver's champion and, like, you didn't have fans on the track. Like, that also looked very strange and weird of, like, Max Verstappen, and, like, you don't have fans invading the track for a sprint race.
And they had the whole graphic package ready, but no trophy ready. Like, at least so similarly, we don't get an iconic photo of Max winning his 3rd championship with him lifting the trophy or it's like, but that's not P1. Somehow that was not P1. Because P1, to me, was when Alex found out that he was promoted in the sprint race, and he decided to post on social media what looked to be a very well done steak that looked like a 7. And as soon as I saw that, I said, doesn't matter what else happens on track this week, that is P1 on my podium of moments that made me go, what is going on?
When I saw that, I thought it was a fan account. And then I said, wait, no, this is Alex. Alex really was like, oh, it's a number 7. Like, what? What is he 7? Is he the age 7? Is he this many years old?
And I also wanted this to be P1 because the other 2 things on this podium are like size, what is going on? This is what is going on? Like, they're different vibes. And I like that what's going on a lot more.
Okay, so we're back on this Ferrari thing again about, I just can't learn my lesson. I can't learn my lesson with this. I can't just... Every time I think I'm done, and then I come back, and then it all just blows up in my face. So, of course, after my hot takes last week, my podiums of Qatar are every single moment Ferrari made me go, why, oh why did I have any faith at all that this was going to go well for Ferrari?
Some context to this that really made me laugh, and this didn't actually end up in the show, it was on the cutting room floor. The show, we have like this 20-minute conversation last week previewing the GP with Bryson, and we do all this analysis about how we think Ferrari's going to struggle at this race, and then it rolls right into predictions, and Nicole goes all in on Ferrari, and we laughed for a good 7 minutes at least that all got cut about the juxtaposition of the 2 things. So either way, I'm glad that like something good content was going to come out of this either way, and I'm glad it's a podium.
Oh, yes. Oh, no. It's 100%. Anything, always listen to Bryson, I guess, because I just was like, nope, F1 can't always
Bryson
be silly
expert.
in the ways that I hope and want it to be, and just want to have some fun sometimes, because sometimes that just makes me lose unbelievably.
And honestly,
All right.
Roulette.
I know. No, but not with Ferrari, and that's the point of this podium. So... P3, every complaining radio about Ferrari in qualifying. I just kept having to hear, what is this red car doing? Do they think this is the race? Why are they driving so slow? Why are they racing? And I'm just like, I continued to be like, what is happening? And I'm already stressed out enough about quali on a Friday because it doesn't work well in my brain. So already seeing this happening on Friday, I don't feel like things are going well for the rest of the weekend.
I have nothing to add.
There's nothing really to add to that because that's just fact. And because it doesn't go well at all because P2... Carlos qualifying P12.
I feel, wait, hold on. Because I feel bad doing that noise there. Because that is more like a...
I predicted him P3, like, everywhere. I literally thought there was the potential for Carlos Sainz to have, like, this potentially golden weekend. And... Friday, it was spit in Nicole's face. Carlos qualifies P12. Not even a Q1. It's not even like we're not even in the realm of a possibility. I didn't even make it through all the qualifying before. I was like, well, there goes my weekend. So don't even go back to the other parts of the soundboard because my
Okay.
P1, and I don't care if it's obvious, but here it goes. Carlos Sainz not starting in the race. P3. I had a beeper. I legitimately predicted this man to be on the podium, and he did not even start in the race. He legitimately caused other penalties to occur because Kevin Magnussen pulls up in his spot because there was no spot on the grid where his car was supposed to be because he didn't drive. So I couldn't even get those points because the man didn't race. Never let me pick a Ferrari ever again. Play this back for me every single time in the future that I think I have any sort of hope. No. Done. Dunzo, can't do it. I love you so much. I can't. He can't. I can't. You can't. Like, how often do you predict someone to be on the podium of a race and they don't even start? It's not even like it was like a turn one collision, which we're not even. I didn't even mean that about anything. He didn't even. No, didn't even make it. Didn't even make it.
The last podium of this race weekend is called Is Haas Real? And this is a special podium because there's only a P2 and a P1 because nothing else feels like it was deserving of being with these other two things. And yes, this is really just an excuse to talk about this. So in P2, Nico Hülkenberg gets a 10-second penalty for starting in the wrong position. How? Why? How?
It just forgets. Open space must move.
Right. It's not that they all line up on the grid before the formation lap and he's in a specific place and then when he comes in from the formation lap moves to a different place. But how is Haas real? I don't know. Haas exists.
Ken's job is car.
P1 is Haas real. Hanging a cup outside to measure the wind direction. Pinnacle of motorsport.
This multi-million-dollar sporting organization. Cup. That's it.
Is Haas real?
Cup? None of us attended Austin this year. None of us were at COTA. And it felt really just worse this year than previous years. Something just felt like there was... Exactly. It felt like Austin had a little bit of extra special magic in the air. So my podium is all of the moments at COTA that just kind of gave me a lot of FOMO and really made me feel like I was missing out.
Every moment of every day. I don't know how you're going to pick a P1.
Every second.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think an important disclaimer is I did have to do some rearranging of this podium on Monday because certain things Sunday evening were shifted in this podium.
Okay.
So, which leads me to my honorary mention, a Lewis Hamilton P2 finish. This was P1 on Sunday, and it no longer exists due to things that we'll, discuss throughout the rest of the episode. But there was some disqualifying, and it no longer made me feel... Sunday, during the day, I was like, I can't believe I'm missing this P2 celebration. Last year, I got to see this in person. And so it has been demoted off of my podium, but it felt like I needed to mention it, that it was there for a period of time.
I think if we were there, the disqualification would have felt so much worse, and I would be more delusional about it now than I even already am. Where I would just be like, nope, I saw it. He was on the podium. It happened.
But at least we've been able to savor it for a little while. Celebrate it.
Yeah, exactly.
The upgrades worked.
Right, the upgrades worked. I felt like it was a personal attack that it was like Lewis and Charles. I was like, of any of the drivers that you're going to pick for me right now to just disqualify, I like, come on, really? That was absolutely painful to watch. But on to the next race. And on to my P3, COTA's friendship bracelet making stands. COTA's this year really embracing the friendship bracelet making mentality that's taken over like everything in the entire world. Shout out Taylor Swift and everyone who's done it before. We've talked about COTA really leaning into that and taking advantage of that female demographic that's really into that. And then there was so much content creator footage over the weekend, and there was legitimate stands. So next to the merchandise, next to the information stands, there was in that COTA font, friendship bracelet making. I would never believe that would be at an F1 race.
I feel like we've come so far. And I feel like we've been pushing so much for things like this that I can't believe we weren't there for like the culmination of this moment. Also, beads are expensive. So the fact that instead of we could have just went to make friendship bracelets there versus last year when we both bought beads and traded friendship bracelets with each other on our own.
100%.
I think it's a huge win. I think it's like it lets fans feel like they're seen. I mean,
Exactly.
it's so cool that COTA did that, and I wish my kids would have loved making them, and
Yep.
I would have loved to share them because COTA, like I met so many people the last 2 times I went, and this is just like another way to connect with people. It's so cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's some of the best parts about going to F1 races is meeting the people that you're seeing online and conversing that way. And it's such a great, easy icebreaker when it's already someone that you know. So hopefully it continues, and hopefully we'll all get to trade them next year. Now, going into my P2, this was giving me goosebumps, and I was almost in tears. Adam Driver's introduction for Austin video. Unbelievable goosebumps. And I know this man is in full Ferrari mentality, like, you know, coming off the Enzo Ferrari biopic, but it was like everything I love about Formula One just gave me chills up and down my spine. I rewatched it numerous times.
And anyone who doesn't know this needs to know that Nicole Katz loves Kylo Ren.
It's like a big red flag that I'm partial to the
Love.
dark side, and like it's kind of like something I don't like to necessarily say out loud because people are like, yeah, I love Kylo Ren. So Kylo
I mean,
Ren,
Adam,
yeah,
can't hate on that. I mean, I have a man crush on him. Like,
We all
and that
do.
video was amazing, and it was all about family. And I was just like, wow, who made this?
He
This
does
is-
a great voiceover. Like, he feels like he could eventually take the torch. For I just want him to now do all the nature biopics.
the new David Attenborough.
exactly. New David Attenborough, new Morgan Freeman,
Yes.
he could totally come in for all of these types of things.
He's
Was
the
He's
next
also good at waving
generation.
flags too.
great
I
at
think he
waving
did Indy
flags.
right?
The
Yeah.
Indy 500
I
and the
think
gross.
he's quite, yeah.
It's all that lightsaber training. That's exactly where it all comes from.
Oh, yeah.
And wrapping up my P1 moment I really just wish I could have witnessed in person, the F1 Academy finale. So not only did I just want to be able to witness any bit of F1 Academy live this year, but last year at COTA, the W Series was canceled, but not like officially, but all the events of the W Series was canceled at COTA week of. So we didn't get to see any of that live. So not only was there female racing live this weekend, at the same time as Formula One. It was being broadcast, but like Marta being crowned the champion of this new like feeder series of everything was so special when a year ago this current series in that place had been canceled. So it felt really special. It would have been wonderful to see in person. But hopefully we'll be able to see that next year sometime. And hopefully Marta will be in a different seat in a different series. Since this is a feeder series, just calling that out there if it's doing what it's supposed to do.
That's right. I have to agree. Like, that's definitely the biggest thing I feel we missed out on. 100%. I was watching the races at home with my kids, and I was sharing Bianca Bustamante's moment where she got the McLaren shirt, and like we got all emotional, and like then we watched a race, and her car stalled, and then but then she like made her way back through the pack. I was like, this is amazing. Like, and actually when I went to COTA in 2021, it was W Series had their final race after the main event, and it was the first time I saw like women racing, and I was blown away. And so yeah, definitely want to see more F1 circuits with the best corner names or track names, turn names, whatever you want to call it. And
I've been so excited for this because I don't know any corner names at all.
So spoiler alert. None of the new tracks have names. This is something for the original tracks, so there's going to be a lot of old school favorites here. So honorable mention goes to Spa, and
You do it.
I'll do it. Sorry.
Ready to do it?
We're not
I'm
used to
keeping
the
that in.
third. That's what happens.
So for Spa, I mean, it's everyone's, people love it, historic track, and Eau Rouge, if I'm saying it right, and Radillon. Those are some classic track names.
We wouldn't be able to correct you, so you're as best of a guess as we would have had.
Yeah, that's a
I
historic track, but the turn names, it's got one, two-ish famous ones, but overall, I think there's some more interesting ones.
I do think the more difficult to say a turn name is, the more likely I think it's a good turn name, because I don't know any. So you just sound impressive whenever you can say, oh yeah, that corner name is this fancy French word. So I think it's a good honorable mention inclusion.
Awesome. All right, so P3 is Monza. All right, so Monza's in P3 because it's the Temple of Speed. And this I found out when I was translating my book to Italian. People there call it Pista Magica, which is the magical track, and I love. And I just love saying the names of the corners, Curva Grande, Parabolica. I mean, Parabolica just sounds impressive.
Especially with that Italian accent.
You think? I don't know.
I was going to throw. This was actually a perfect way for me to ask if you spoke Italian, because I know if you're translating your books in other languages, do you speak all of those languages, or was it like the Spanish, then finding other ways to translate?
It's a little bit of the Romance language kind of vibe. So I do speak Spanish and English, tiny bit of French, but I have Italian roots. My name, Amendola, is an Italian name, so I have Italian roots. And I mean, growing up, Ferrari was the car. It was everything. Right. I like to say that, Enzo Ferrari's famous quote about, tell a child to draw a car and he's going to color it red. Like, for me, that resonates so hard. Monza's like number one on my bucket list. And, they go for quality over quantity, not a lot of turns. But those turns, they have nice names, and it's fun to say it. And
So Red Racer books, I just feel like I unlocked an entire connection of like, that's Red Racer. Now we're back to Ferrari Red, and there's the whole.
There is a reason behind the red, yes. Is kind of the origin story. I mean, he's not Italian; he's a bicultural character. But yeah, I mean, red cars for kids. It's just it's just a thing,
That's it. Lightning McQueen and all.
Exactly. Okay. P2, Silverstone. Now this one I love because Silverstone is one of the OG tracks, and it also used to be a Air Force whatever hangar, runway, whatever.
It's one of my favorite fun facts to tell
Right.
people.
And I like that because F1 cars have so much like crossover with planes, aerodynamics, the drivers wear, full on jumpsuits. There's so many things. And the whole STEM piece really speaks to me. But the names are also fascinating because they have all sorts of names. Some of them are like landmarks, and some of them, are historical. But there's some of them are just fun to say, like Maggots Beckett's Chapel, Cops Corner, which is I always thought was like cops, like you're going to call it police, which is actually appropriate because it was the scene of the crime in 2021 where Max and Lewis had their little collision.
The scene of the crime. Great way to phrase it.
But then it has like, Abbey, it has, and like these are like, there's like farm, because there's farms, village for Silverstone Village, there's Stowe, which is a school next door, and they have the Hamilton Strait, which I love. There's so many, like every name has a meaning, and that's what I think is really cool about turn names. Like, it's really hard to like remember turn 3 or turn 7, but if you know the names, you can kind of attach yourself to it, and there's a little history, and kind of, I think more tracks need names.
I agree.
I agree,
100%.
but I will say that Silverstone is the hardest race to watch because I feel like the broadcasters make a point to never say a turn number. So if you do not, personally, since I can never remember turn names, if I don't have the reference guide open while watching the broadcast, I'm going to be lost the whole time. I'm like, I have no idea. You could be talking about turn 3, you could be talking about turn 14. I need my reference book for it.
We need F1 Multiviewer to have the track map
That's a good
updated
idea.
specifically just to have the turn names for races like Silverstone or any time like that, just so we can see exactly where, because I remember that whole debacle of like, I need to look at the reference where everyone is.
I think F1 juniors could do this in a very nice way, pop up with like, I think kids would love it. I mean, it's so much cooler to talk about Cops Corner than it is, turn 7 or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And actually, that's a funny story because I was watching like an FP1, and they go on like they talk about all sorts of random stuff. But
Whatever
Will
they can.
Buxton one time went through and like talked about every single corner. I was like, oh, that's what Stowe and Vale. It's not a ski town. Okay, interesting. So
He
yeah,
has a Rolodex of history in his brain that is unbelievably impressive for him to just pull out.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a moment he was like waiting to flex, and like
Oh,
every
yeah.
practice is like that perfect moment of he's like, watch me do this and name every corner, and I'll tell you why. And that is impressive.
Yeah.
That is a great skill. I would love to see someone whip out.
hold my
whatever they-
mic, Jolien. I got this.
Exactly. He's like, hold on, everyone. Give me the next
Hold on.
15 minutes. I got you.
Let me teach you about something. Okay, all right.
All
So
right, and what's your
P1.
P1?
P1, I don't know, it might be a hot take. Monaco.
I was wondering what you were going to put ahead of Silverstone. Like, that felt like the peak.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah, I struggle with this one because I love all the tracks, especially the old school ones. But when I was going back through and looking at them, Monaco is just kind of, it's a special place, and the names are all kind of, there's swimming pool or piscine, which is like, okay, like that's one you could say to someone who doesn't know anything about F1 and be like, what? A swimming pool? There's Tabak, there's Raskas, and then they have like tunnel, which isn't even a turn, but like call it the tunnel, and the chicane, which is like just one of my favorite words, chicane. What's else? There's the hairpin. They just call it the hairpin. It used to be the Grand Hotel hairpin. It became the Lowe's hairpin. There's just so much history within all of them, and like they represent certain things, and it's. And I think this year when they did the F1 actually did the broadcast and took it over, you could kind of enjoy it. You could see it from above. You could see everything so clearly, and you kind of just feel the history, the heritage. So for me, that's also on my bucket list. I know people hate on the racing or the quality of the racing, but if you're a driver, everybody wants to win Monaco. That's top of their list every time. So I don't know why people
This
hate on it.
podcast are we are both Monaco apologists. We love
Oh,
Monaco
good.
week.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
love Monaco on this
Yeah.
podcast so very much.
Yeah,
I even
think-
say casino, because did you know
Yes.
that people from Monaco can't even go into the casino? Like,
Yep.
I recently
what
learned
a
that. Yeah, that's
place.
crazy.
Monaco is also, I mean, you named your Podium is like our bucket list of races. Like it is what we really want to go to, but we love Monaco. We enjoy it every single year. I mean, this is the year that we got to see the floor of the Red Bull. So that just felt like
Lot
a
of floors.
magical weekend in itself. It always is just like a wild time. And exactly to your point of like every driver like wants to win Monaco. And so when there's like that amount of stakes, and not that drivers ever, care less, but there's just a little bit more oomph in Monaco. And
yeah, it's got gravitas.
Oh yes, that's the perfect word.
And I completely disagree that it's not exciting on track racing. It's just different exciting. And the broadcast this year made it so much better. I felt like I actually knew where we were on the track the entire time. But I think what's exciting about Monaco racing is that they could crash any second. Like, you just get one on board, and I'm good. I'm entertained for the whole time. Like, I think I will never say that overtakes equals exciting. Like, there were a lot of overtakes at COTA this weekend, but I wouldn't necessarily say that this race was more exciting than Monaco was this year. And I
100%.
thought this race was very exciting. Like, it's not a... But yeah, we'll forever be a Monaco apologist.
I'm there with you. I got your back.
I always enjoy watching it. The fans are fun. The teams have a lot of fun. And I also just really enjoy the circuit. And there's always just like some extra special moments. But particularly this weekend, there were plenty of special sparkle moments at the Mexico GP. And there were several moments this weekend that just made me go, oh my gosh. So these are my podium of moments in the Mexico GP that had my jaw on the floor. So an honorary mention, because we always got to sometimes throw in things that we just really want to talk about it as an honorary mention. Max's arrival to the podium. I love that the Mexico Grand Prix does this, but watching Max Verstappen with a sombrero sitting on the Red Bull lifting up from the ground was the most unbelievably extra thing. And I also just love every year with this race, old videos come back of drivers levitating from the ground, and it's so dramatic, and I absolutely am obsessed with it. So every time I see it, I just am like, how are other races not doing this, please?
I am pro car levitation. I am anti the sombrero.
Yeah, it wasn't really for the sombrero. I'm really hyped about the levitating over the floor.
Right.
Sombrero felt like really an unnecessary piece of it all, given Max Verstappen's, I don't know, not, like it's...
F1 just traveling around the world doing
Trying
gross
to do
generalizations and stereotypes of
Yeah.
everywhere they visit.
Yeah, so,
Whoa.
but again, the floor,
But-
podium with
the
dramatics.
car. I think the car should always be a part of the celebration. I think that is definitely something every other race should learn from. But then maybe it would make this one less special. But no, car should be a part of it. It's super hype. I can't believe that's not on your podium, though. That's just an honorable mention.
Yes, I know. This was a really tough podium altogether. Like all of these had me absolutely screaming all weekend. And this one, I even debated moving up higher on my podium. My P3, Lewis's overtake on Charles. I know. I'm shocked it's not higher, but given other circumstances of the weekend that we will be getting into, it just naturally is not for me. But it was that overtake, which I have then watched 1,000 times before. You know those moments when you just hear it's hammer time, screaming in your ears? It was one of those beautiful moments. I could imagine all of the goose duck memes, in, 3 rounds Lewis Hamilton. It's those moments that just make you feel on fire as an F1 fan, and there's the gap, and he took it. So I was getting really hyped, and it was just he's doing it, and then P2 finish. Felt really good as a Lewis fan this weekend. All right, now we're getting into where everything gets really saucy. My P2, moments that had my jaw on the floor. Danny Ric qualifying P4? Wow, this bit's really awkward without sounders.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think we're gonna add it in post.
Yeah. So not only why you don't just I can just do it live. You don't want to just do it live? What do you want? We can just start over. Danny Ric qualifying P4, and Checo qualifying P5. So
Again, how is this not your P1? I'm so confused.
well, because there may be one that's unbelievably obvious now as my P1. I couldn't believe this. I was like barely able to text Brianna while watching qualifying. I just kept saying fever dream. Like none of it was real. I was so worried that I was going to say something and jinx it and he was going to just like break his other hand. I don't know what was happening. And look, I love Danny Ricciardo. All of my excitement is nothing against Checo. Like it is a really difficult situation and I am just rooting for the success of Danny Ric, which unfortunately who knows, be at the cost of Checo. But I just need to make that clear. I don't dislike Checo. It's been very rough. But wow, it was so unbelievable to see Danny Ric have the weekend that he did after, stuff. But whatever. We'll get into all that later. And my number one jaw-dropping moment of the Mexico GP, Checo's DNF. I don't remember what the P1 sound is, so I can't do it. I still can't believe that it happened. How soon it happened, how dramatic it happened. Seeing Checo in that car was absolutely heartbreaking after the fact. It was, really pushing to the limit. You could tell how much this race meant to him in the moment and like all the stakes of it, like just really felt the build up there. Ooh, and the fan, like there was just adorable Checo fans like sobbing in the stands. And like I've been that person where it's just absolutely so heartbreaking and there was so much build up for this. And to like, that's what this came down to. It was just like very heartbreaking to watch.
So to place everyone listening in my living room for this. So the Eagles game is getting wrapped up. So I'm watching that and the sound is on the Eagles game. But I have the start like my full multi-viewer setup still, and it just so happened that the start coincided with like a commercial break on the Eagles game. So I looked up and I was like, ooh, I get to watch the start. This is so great. This is so exciting. And I'm watching it and I screamed when I saw the Red Bull car go flying. And for like a second, I didn't realize like which car was flying because on the starts, I really watched Lewis Hamilton's onboard. And so I got like distracted and pulled away. And everyone in my family was like, are you okay? Are you dying? What is going on? And I was like, a Red Bull car went flying. And they were all like, okay, Brianna, like, great. Is everyone okay? I was like, I think so. But I don't know. The car went flying. It was so dramatic. I'm glad that he's just not hurt and is safe. But that aside, Checo this weekend, like, fully embodied the, like, stupid F1 cliche that's, like, you can't win a race in turn one, but you can definitely lose a race in turn one. And I just have never seen a better example of that being evident in a thing.
Yeah, in the cool-down room when Max, Lewis, and Charles were rewatching, and Lewis is like, he pulled a me in Qatar. Like, it was like, he said it.
We love a self-aware king.
Yeah, I was like, wow, so unbelievably self-aware. But, and even post-race interviews, all of it was just, ouch. So...
Yeah, you're right. That's a pretty obvious P1.
Yeah, but you know what? Really, all of these you could... That one is the P1. The rest you could all just throw around and put there. But that Checo DNF is still just...
Well, now that we've talked about Checo DNF sadness, do you want to go scream about Daniel Ricciardo for a solid 3 minutes? Okay, let's go do that. All right, my podium this week is my top quotes of the weekend. Yes, Nicole normally brings the top quotes, but I called dibs this week because I was really excited to talk about some of these. I really appreciated this weekend how confident Ferrari was all weekend. So my honorable mention is the Leclerc radio. We believe that in about 5 laps, hard tires will be faster than the mediums. I liked this side of Ferrari. Like, I liked Ferrari not wavering on decisions and being confident, so I'm in favor of this. But it's just one of those, this is why it's not fully on the podium, but it's worth talking about. Because in hindsight, it's a little funny to see their just pure confidence in what's gonna happen. All right, P3, post-race, Lewis, fantastic. Now we just need to give you the car that can win. That driving was perfection. This radio just made me so happy. Like, and if you didn't watch the onboard, you probably missed. Lewis crossed the finish line and just was sitting there pumping his fist and was so excited and happy about the performance that day, and he had so much fun. And it was just a reminder that, like, I love seeing the emotion of these drivers, good or bad. Like, I like when Max gets angry. I like when drivers do something great in a race and are excited to cross the finish line and to show that excitement. And seeing Lewis that excited and then hearing about his driving perfection, because that is what it was, deserves a P3. All right. I went back and forth on these on what should be P1 and P2, so you can let me know, both you, Nicole, and anyone listening, if I ordered them wrong. But my P2 was the McLaren radio. We know what Russell is like. He's all or nothing. Beep, beep.
I'm now realizing there's such a good chance that all of these sounds are going to make it into the episode.
Oh, I'm definitely leaving it in.
Regretting it.
Yeah.
So I apologize to everyone for these obnoxious noises, but our sounder's just not working this week, so we're DIYing, you know? This Barbie's job is sounders.
The thing is I told Nicole, hey, I'm just going to add them in post. Our soundboard's not working. But she continues to make the sound as if I'm not going to leave it in, because I'm most definitely going to leave her making these, like, horn sounds in. I just love that George Russell has this reputation now, and everyone knows, like, even other teams are just like, yeah, that's George Russell. Now, I will say that he's more all or nothing with Lewis Hamilton, but the fact that everyone else is just like, be careful. Like, there's two drivers on the grid right now who have a wrecking ball reputation, and one is Sergio Perez, and the other is George Russell. So, at least when Logan Sargent crashes out, he's normally not taking people with him.
Well, he's too far behind. There's no one there.
Oh, poor guy. All right, P1, Esteban Ocon. You can say to Haas that I'm going to go for it, so they better be ready. And what made this quote so great isn't necessarily that quote, even though it is great, that Ocon's like, let Nico Hülkenberg know that I'm going to do an overtake. Like, it's just so, like, I'll think of a good connection. But that Nico Hülkenberg then responded, you must really like my rear end. What took you so long, Esteban Ocon, on his Instagram story. Which was just, like, perfect F1 driver banter. I loved every second of it.
If that wasn't your P1, I was going to describe this entire scenario as my P1 quote of the weekend. So I would have done this podium just for that quote, so I'm so glad you did it, because I would have done the same thing.
I did this podium just for this quote.
Just so we're clear. As soon as I saw that on Instagram, I was like, this needs to be discussed.
My podium this weekend is my top Lewis fashion moments of the weekend.
One of my favorite podiums that we do all the time.
I know. And this weekend was particularly hard because I loved every single one of his outfits. But I had to go with P3, Friday, the soccer tracksuit. I loved the tracksuit. I loved what it meant even more, because it was either actually vintage from the 90s or a replica 90s tracksuit that a lot of people were connecting to the moment where the Brazilian national team did the tribute to Senna. Lewis has always talked about how Senna is his idol. And I just liked that he went all in on Brazil this weekend, considering that he is an honorary Brazilian citizen now, and Brazil loves Lewis, as he deserves. It was his second home race weekend, and he basically, like, did the same thing for the British GP this year. All custom British fits, and then all custom Brazil
He did.
fits.
Like, they're unbelievably similar now that I'm thinking of them in my brain.
Yep, the styling was very close. But like I said, everything he wore this weekend could be a P1, but something had to be P3. And also something has to be P2. And my P2 was Saturday quali, like the botanical flower fit.
Okay, good. We're aligning. I was getting really like, what is she gonna do here?
Oh, I meant to ask you, would that have been your P3?
This probably would have been my P3, but there's something about a matching tracksuit that like really just scratches my brain in like the greatest way.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, again, everything could always be a P1.
And then similarly, there's something about wearing art that really scratches my personal brain in like such a way. I couldn't do the research, like I couldn't figure out the finality of the research, but I do think there is some crossover of the botanical flowers he was wearing and flowers that are often associated with Brazil. It's not their national flower, but a lot of people consider strands of orchids national Brazilian flowers, and it does look like an orchid. All I'm saying is there was clearly intent with that selection, whether or not it was
Easter egg.
right on the nose, like the Brazilian football team tracksuit was right on the nose. And then, of course, P1 was Thursday, the custom fit. The Brazilian flag spray paint, Senna on the back. The scream, I scrubbed. Like, it bow down, as Nicole is doing on the video right now. It could not have been a more perfect fit. And it was one of the weird weekends where I felt like he started higher and became more casual as the weekend went on. When normally Lewis does the opposite, where his Sunday fit is like insane, but he started on Thursday with one of the most insane pieces I've seen him wear all season.
I can't believe he didn't wear that on race day. And I get media day is the day with like literally in the name media day. But then the Sunday fit, and nothing against the Sunday fit. We love the Sunday fit. We love any time that Lewis Hamilton wears a red sweater vest. We've seen him wear a couple of them, which is great, again, and totally fine. But that Senna custom piece was, again, literal artwork, really beautiful, and just a great way to kick off the weekend, but also would have been a great race day fit.
I wonder if Lewis understood that the race weekend was going to go that way on track, and he was just like, let's start out with a bang this weekend. Because if we had to see sad Lewis show up on the race day in that fit on Sunday, like, it really wouldn't have worked.
100%, that's it. Yeah, he's like, this, I'm going to wear all red, just drag me. Oh, just kidding, the W14 will do it for you.
Oh, man, the blood from the daggers that the Mercedes cars keep stabbing him with.
Yeah.
Oh, he really should have worn all black in mourning his season.
100%.
But I really loved it. Was a custom outfit, but it was based on something this designer had done, but he completely made a unique one with this artwork for Lewis. Yeah, anytime Lewis gets something custom made, I'm going to obsess over it. And when we eventually do our fashion season review, I will be stunned if this doesn't end up P1.
Yeah, and at least once a weekend we'll get a good custom piece from Lewis. So probably all of our moments will just be custom this, custom this, custom this. One of my favorite podiums to do after a race weekend is my favorite radios of the weekend. And I wouldn't necessarily say that these radios that I'm about to present are my favorite of the weekend, but they just matched my vibe. They matched my emotions. They matched just the overall feelings that I left Sunday with.
They're the best quotes of the weekend, but that doesn't mean you like them.
Yeah. They're definitely the best quotes of the weekend doesn't always necessarily mean the most positive quotes. So, coming really hot right out the gates. P3, George Russell, help me. Plain and simple. Me watching Mercedes, me watching this race. George had a lot of radios this weekend, which you don't have time to get into all of that right now because this podcast we try to keep at an hour sometimes. But help me, period. This really sums up everything that we've talked about with Mercedes and where I'm at. So thank you, George, for just summing that up perfectly.
The multi-viewer AI transcription of it also was incredible because it was just help me, period. And like seeing that come up on the scroll was...
Right. And that's where, like help me with strategy, but just reading it. Nope, help me. Thank you. That's it. P2, Alonso's team engineer. Mercedes is dying. So the real full description of this, Alonso's trying to figure out, Mercedes, what's happening? And the full quote, Mercedes are dying. They're dying. They're behind signs and are dying. Again,
Yeah, me too.
that's how I felt. Help me. And I think that they're dying. Thank you. And we can just, that's it. That's self-explanatory here.
Yep.
And the last one, shockingly, I mean, I guess maybe not shockingly, doesn't like have to do with Mercedes, because P1 is Charles Leclerc. Why am I so unlucky? Why am I so unlucky?
I felt bad using that sound, like using our P1 sound. Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Poor child. Like, yo, we don't know why
Charles?
you're so unlucky either.
That written out list, if anyone's seen it, like going around on the internet, that breaks down every single race for Charles. He is so unbelievably unlucky. The race didn't even start. We were like, everything was in a relatively good place, like going into this weekend for him, and then just why am I so unlucky? I saw somebody else tweet like, why him? He's asking this. That means he's been thinking about this. It's like, of course he's been thinking about this. It was the most Charles radio I have ever heard. Charles, and just felt really perfect and fitting to sum up this season for him. He didn't even get to start the race.
Bahrain DNF, Saudi penalty, Australia DNF, Baku no issues, P2 in the sprint and P3 in the race. So good things happen when he doesn't have issues. Miami, his fault, the car was terrible though. Monaco penalty, Spain problems in quali, pit lane start, Canada strategy issues in quali, Austria penalty and sprint shootout, P2 in the race, had no issues. Silverstone electrical issue and FP2 strategy issues in the race. Hungary, 9-second pit stop, no water. Spa, no issues, P3 in the race. Netherlands, DNF. Monza, no issues, question mark, P4 in the race. The person who did this wasn't quite sure, and I think they were right that Monza technically didn't have any issues. Singapore, cooling issues during the race, some strategy issues. Japan, no issues, P4 in the race. Qatar, penalty in the sprint, maximized in the race. Austin, disqualified. Mexico, no issues, P3 in the race. Brazil, lift and coast during the whole sprint, did not start because his engine failed and the hydraulics failed and it sent him into a wall.
That is when you see a formation lap and you see a Ferrari radio pop up as soon as it starts, you know things are going bad. But yeah, so it seems like Charles' 2023 season could be summed up as either like P3, no issues, or wow, everything's a nightmare.
So much happened this week. So we decided we put together podiums of things that happened this week that I still genuinely can't believe actually happened this week. Because while they were happening, I was like, what is going on? And after they happened, I'm still left with did that actually happen? So this is the did that actually happen podium of the weekend. I'm sure there's 100 things that could end up on this, and I'm sure there are things you're going to say that I'm going to be like, oh, that should be on my podium, and vice versa. But really, the goal here is to just be able to talk about 6 things that we're both like, I can't believe that actually happened.
Exactly.
So, Nicole, what is your P3 moment?
My P3 is Max singing Viva Las Vegas on the radio.
Yep, I loved all the memes that everyone posted afterwards. That's like Max grumpy all weekend. Max after he wins, and he's just like, "Hello, I love this race. This race is so fun." Whoever the PR person who got to him, like, kudos to you.
Yeah, it was such an attitude switch of like, wow, we just want to burn the place down to Viva Las Vegas. It was crazy.
That's a great P3. All right, my P3 is also Max related. And it was that the FIA actually gave Max a penalty for doing something bad on track for the first time in about 3 years.
Oh my God.
I mean, like, obviously it was his fault. He deserved the penalty. Like, it took them long enough to do it, but I'm still like, wow, they did it. I didn't know they were allowed to do that.
I didn't think it was going to happen. It was like, oh,
right,
a 5 second penalty. Oh my gosh, for Max Verstappen?
Too stunned to speak. All right, what was your P2?
My P2, seeing these drivers sit in this cool down car with Checo in this red suit. kind of ultimate fever dream.
I still can't believe they convinced Max Verstappen to wear an Elvis-themed race suit.
It didn't process to me after, even when you sent the pictures to me, my initial response was, wow, why does everyone look like a McDonald's employee this year? And it wasn't like till the race where I was like, wow, oh my gosh, Max's belt around his race suit says Elvis. And then they're sitting in this car and I'm looking at Checo in the red and Charles in the red, and I'm having this like weird like cognitive dissonance of like, no, something doesn't feel right about this image. Like it looked weird. It was just giving me like the heebie-jeebies.
The angle of it, the angle of the shot just also made me feel like ways. Yeah, I mean, there was so much I loved about the randomness and the glitz and glam of the Vegas GP. The having to take a limo to go to the Bellagio because they paid to be the location for the post-race interviews probably wasn't my favorite decision, even though I understand that some marketing exec paid a lot of money for it. But I honestly just wish everyone was saltier after the race, because I want you to stick a bunch of salty like race car drivers in a limo that close together. That I want to see.
Yeah, opposite of cool down.
Yep. My P2 moment is the fact that they actually kicked fans out in Vegas at 1:30 a.m. claiming that was like too late, when the whole point of Vegas is it's open 24 hours. And we'll get more into this at a different point, but like I couldn't have this podium and not have that on the podium where I'm like, what?
Yeah, definitely
What?
made no sense for literally Vegas.
Mhm.
I don't know, but we'll get into all of that in a bit.
All right, do you want to do your P1 first?
Yeah. So my P1, I still could not believe this happened, and I kind of just take blame. Carlos, free practice, all of it, just all of it. The penalty, I predicted him on the podium immediately.
Wrong Ferrari driver.
Just what? And cuts me last week. If I'm going to pick a Ferrari driver, I'm not going to pick Charles, because only bad things happen to Charles. Ugh, I can't believe water cover, manhole cover, whatever. All what? How is that happening 9 minutes into a session?
Oh, no words, lots of words all at once. But I'll just give you my P1 of my I can't believe this happened podium. F1 on their national feed showing a sign that talks about Lewis Hamilton being an 8-time champion.
I did the thing.
Look, we all know this. This is just a fact. We all know that Lewis should have his 8 championships. The fact that the TV broadcast crew is now like, whatever, let's show the cute kid talking about the fact that Lewis Hamilton was robbed. Like, we're all just going to stop pretending now? Like, have we all agreed that we're all going to stop pretending now? Is this confirmation of that? And like, whoever you are on the live feed who made that decision, just know that you had my jaw on the ground in a good way.
So much meme content from this weekend. It's no surprise that the Vegas GP was like the most memeable thing that's ever probably memed. If it wasn't crazy,
it would have been a failure. But
yeah.
We talked going into this that a key part of a rubric for this race being successful is that it's just silly enough that we can meme it. And I feel like it was definitely silly enough that we could meme it.
Beyond.
My P3 is Carlos Sainz dropping the trophy in the Netflix Cup.
My P3 is all of the Elvises in the paddock welcoming the drivers.
My P2 was Sassy Spear, is what I'm calling it, but it's whenever they would make the sphere look like slightly confused at something.
And like my P2 is the FIA grid balcony box, whatever you want to label as like that FIA fence box with the red lights behind it.
Yeah, that is definitely my honorable mentions. I just like it's so good. But my obvious P1 had to be the limo.
That was absolutely, it's one of my honorable mentions because my P1 is Checo and the announcer just absolutely frozen in time.
I felt like 16 of the 20 drivers didn't know what to do, and it felt like all 16 of them chose a different option when they didn't know what to do, and Checo's was the best. It was the best of the options.
Alex Albon just kept walking. Logan's like, just go to that car. Just go to that car. Just go to that car. And Checo's like, this man will tell me what to do after he's done screaming my name in my face.
Logan, I'm pretty sure Logan is a Capricorn, and if he's not, that is the most Capricorn moment that any person could have. Like, did you not listen? You go right there, Alex. I'm not stressed about the best liveries podium. I'm stressed about the fact that I don't like most of the liveries, so I had to put things on the podium, and I really just don't know if I really like my P1, and I don't know if my P2 and P3 are worthy of being on a podium. That's what's stressing me out about this.
I feel so confident in these choices. I don't think I've ever done a podium so fast, so that's like really interesting that you and I are like in such different places for a podium, because I did this in maybe under a minute.
I just don't love when I don't love all of my P3. Like, I don't think my P3, which I'll start with right now, I don't think I would normally put that on a podium for something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And my P3 is the Red Bull livery.
Also my P3.
Okay. I for a Red Bull livery, I liked it. I liked the whooshy lines. Like, it was fine. It was better than some of the other ones.
I love the idea that a fan most likely made this on Canva. Like, I love that a fan made it. I also love that they definitely used Canva probably to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, or just a simple, dragging in Photoshop of like the neon, like every single Photoshop app has this. So it just gives me encouragement of like, I could do that. So maybe next year. And it just also leaned into the vibe. It was the Red Bull livery, I liked it more than their COTA one. So in the terms of like where it's falling in there, it's definitely my favorite ones of the fan made of the Red Bull series.
Right. And I don't actually blame the fan for that. I just feel like Red Bull wants like the most basic design ever. But okay, so since I revealed both of our P3s, you start with your P2.
So my P2 is the AlphaTauri livery. You look so stunned. I feel like okay.
I won't say why I'm so stunned. Say why it's your P2 first. I don't want to.
I really loved the way that they somehow were able to make a black and white livery look like a set of moving lights. Like when you're driving down the strip and like the lights are flying past you, or just anything in Vegas, like they were able to create that in the livery. I thought like the merch that they had to go with it was really, really cool. And usually when AlphaTauri does liveries, I'm not impressed at all. And this, I thought they did a great job of doing somehow the most minimal Vegas GP livery possible, with it being so very Vegas.
My stunned face was because to me, this was so clear and obvious, the P1. This is my P1.
I figured. Right.
Like, I was like, how is this only your P2? I don't understand, because this is one of the most creative liveries I have ever seen just happen. Like, it doesn't matter that it was Vegas. Like, this was just so cool.
Yes, you are forgetting, well, now I don't want to jump, but I'm inferring that we potentially may have like a similar P2 to P1. So what's your P2?
My P2 is the Alpha, and I'm gonna guess that's your P1.
It is my P1, because if there's anything in the world that I absolutely love, is an unbelievably, like, let's lean into the chuggy Vegas vibes and a black livery. And oh my god, they did both! And I love the race suits. Like, it was what I wanted. And it also came later. I think it was one of the last liveries to be revealed in last week's episode. We still hadn't seen it. Like, in our yellow sector notes, it was, they're doing something. And when it was revealed, I was like, yes, a Vegas livery. They did the thing. So that's why it's my P1.
It was very clearly my P2. My stress about this podium was I didn't feel like the Red Bull was deserving of a podium spot. But my only other thing I was thinking about flipping it out for was the lame McLaren livery with like all the, I don't know. Yeah, I was disappointed. I was shocked that in a race weekend where 7 teams did special liveries, that I was really only obsessed with 2 of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt like there was going to be so many options. And there weren't. And I feel like people are going to be like, but what about Williams? I'm going to be like, yeah, okay, the clip art was fine, I guess. I just,
I've seen Williams even do better. Like, if we're going for, like, clip art vibes, then I thought that Red Bull did it better, is really what the decision was.
Agreed.
McLaren's livery wasn't even really a livery. They just put a bunch of Jack Daniels stickers on it. And they took away the paint. Like, I had a lot of questions this week about decisions, and that was one of them. When we were getting started to do this, and right before we just hit live now, Nicole just went, my P2 gets interesting. So we're going to talk about favorite helmets of the weekend, because despite a very down year for drivers bringing specialty helmets, a lot of drivers did bring specialty helmets this weekend.
Which we had high expectations for, and some of them delivered.
I do have an honorable mention. I will save it for the end.
Same, as do I.
Yeah. But my P3 is Esteban Ocon's Deadpool helmet. While I loved that this exists, they're just the P2 and P1 I squealed about more. I loved the marketing for this. I love that he was able to give it to Ryan Reynolds like we talked about in the last episode. I just love that Esteban loves Marvel and comics. But the helmet itself I thought was worthy of being on the podium, but only a P3.
Fair. My P3 is Alex's Vegas sketch style helmet. I love that it kind of got the desert vibes and then the strip vibes. It also looked adorable. It's a great color, and Alex has just really great design helmets.
He does, yeah. He always goes for like a busier option, but it's always fun busy, not like cluttered busy. Alex Albon, ever since he even had to work in the ugly Red Bull logo, has always known how to create a design around the sponsors. And I think that's such a talent for whoever, him on his team, or whoever on his team is good at laying that out and executing that vision. All right, this is where I know it's going to probably get controversial, but my P2 is very clearly Lance Stroll.
I'm shocked it's only your P2.
It was P1 for a while, but the P1 I think is much more deserving of P1. I am so obsessed with Lance's design in general. I love. So the fact that he just took his design and made it like neon in such a fun way, and the glowing bright green, I love it. I love it. There's nothing else to say except that I saw it, I loved it. And I know that it's not necessarily the most creative option, but I don't care because I would actually buy it. Like, it's very rare that I see like a helmet design or a one-off special design that I'm like, I would want to put that on my shelf. And that's one of them. What was your P2?
So my P2, breaking fourth wall, I will do my own sounders here because this is just, we're committing here. My P2 is glitter helmets. I won't pick. They're all so incredible. Their existence deserves to be on the podium. So I will not pick Fernando, Valtteri's space helmet, George's blue sparkle helmet, Checo's. Ferrari drivers get like 20% of it. Glitter helmets are always the vibe. Glitter helmets are always podium worthy. And oh my God, Vegas is the place to do it. So all of them.
You're 100% right that I feel like at this point I'm so used to drivers to just putting glitter on things that I like I'm looking at the rest of it. But like George Russell just like making his helmet the glitter version of his helmet is freaking sick, and if I wasn't so used to it, probably would be on my podium. So I apologize for the lack of glitter mention on my podium because everything should just be glitter. They should never run their normal versions.
Which is why all of the concept is my podium P2 because that just it should be always the default. The option should just be glitter.
Okay, so I have a feeling here that both of us have the same P1, but I will say mine is very clearly Daniel Ricciardo. Is yours too?
This is so unbelievably spicy. My P1 is Esteban Ocon's Deadpool helmet. We
Really?
legitimately
Daniel Ricciardo is not on your podium when he
Dan-
literally had reflective strips, so when it goes under the light, it looks cooler? What are you talking about? Miss Daniel Ricciardo herself? Like, I know you love this. Oh my gosh.
I do love this. It is my honorable mention because here's the thing. Daniel Ricciardo should have had a one-off design for this race. I love any opportunity for there to be like Chrome and the SpongeBob memes and everything like that. And it is an absolutely beautiful helmet. But Daniel Ricciardo not having a specific Vegas standalone, the man that 6 years ago wanted a race in Vegas doesn't have a Vegas specific themed helmet. I loved it, but like, how is there not a shoey bar on his helmet?
Well, I mean, for starters, I don't think he realized he was racing in Vegas until recently, and I think it's hard to pull together but I also I have this unbelievably hot take that I really think Daniel Ricciardo had no interest in racing in Vegas. I think he said this thing 6 years ago and everyone wanted to bring it up all race weekend, and every time he was asked about it he seems kind of grumpy. So I don't know if he already knows he's getting the Red Bull seat and he needs to take on Max Verstappen's personality up front already, but he was so admittedly not Daniel Ricciardo giddy in every interview this week and grumpy whenever anyone brought up him wanting to race in Vegas. So my hot take is I don't think Daniel Ricciardo actually cares about racing in Vegas at all.
Well, I think everyone was blaming him come Thursday night, Friday morning. People were like, well, thanks, Danny Rick. That's the reason why you're here. You love America so much. I saw a lot of ugly discourse like that. So I needed more glitter. So it's not my P1 because I wanted more from him. And Ocon is my P1 because legitimately flashback to our episode of having a That's So Raven moment of Esteban Ocon doing a Deadpool helmet, and he did it. So that manifestation deserves a P1 for me.
Well, I have a 3, 2, and 1 and 17 honorable mentions, but but I was able to pick, and it was really, really difficult.
So what's your all right? So F1 really did utilize the sphere, which we were hoping for and requested to do, and boy, oh boy, did they do it!
It was the main character of the weekend.
Yes, it definitely was a very prominent feature in every single shot everywhere. So best things that were put on the Vegas sphere throughout the weekend. What was your P3?
My P3 was the super cool Aston Martin ad that started with the smoke and then the glass broke and it revealed the Aston Martin F1 car through smoke. It really made use of the 3D effect that you could do with the sphere.
Yes, definitely. All the team stuff was super sick.
What was your P3?
My P3 is, I think just because it became such a hysterical photo, is when it was a Paramount Plus ad and you have SpongeBob and Patrick just going
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I accidentally clicked it. Keep talking.
Paramount Plus ad with SpongeBob and Patrick going, ooh. It created the most incredible shot on the Ferrari account of, I believe it's Carlos Sainz driving, and you just have Patrick and SpongeBob gigantic in the background.
That was such a great job by Paramount, so much so that it's actually my P2. Because I loved that they could have put anything up there and they chose to do that shot of SpongeBob and Patrick because they knew it was going to be memeable. It was great marketing.
Absolutely incredible. Well, my P2 is just the entire intro Vegas F1 graphic, that full neon light graphic design that they really introduced at the opening ceremonies was just sick. Unbelievably sick.
I agree. Yeah. I think that there were 3 uses of the sphere this week. There was marketing and sponsorship, and then there was F1 using its graphics, and then there was the face, the spears emoji face. But I think F1 was really creative with all the different ways they used it this weekend, and that, to your point, I think was one of their best. All right, my P1 though is when they put a racing helmet on the little emoji guy.
That's also my P1.
It was so cute and so smart and so fun, and he always looked so sassy and then so happy, but he was wearing a little racing hat, and I loved it.
We were so excited to already have like the sassy emoji face like potentially happen when like Charles had a moment or something. The fact that they put a racing helmet on this emoji's face is unbelievable. Created just like the perfect spectator viewpoint, 100%.
So some rapid fire honorable mentions that we didn't mention here. The Mercedes choice of ads where they just put the Mercedes star with like all the fun backgrounds was unbelievably sick. They did the full F1 title sequence on it. It could have been better, but I just like that they did it, and then F1 edited it together to like be correctly timed with the music. The Chrome logo with the little McLaren cars driving around it, like Chrome understands that it's a circle logo, and they put it on a circle spear. It was sick. And last but not least, the fact that during the race they like put things like when there was a yellow flag, they made the whole spear a yellow flag was really smart, really fun. And do you remember when like the spear wasn't supposed to use the colors red, yellow, or blue at any point, and the fact that they used it the entire race just deserves an overall honorable mention for me, because like clearly there was some miscommunication between the FIAs asking them to do that and then them saying, nah, no thanks. And I find that funny.
Giant yellow face. I'm like, well, that's still definitely yellow. But my honorable mention was, wow, in actual use, the yellow flag, the checkered flag. Actually, it might have been also the yellow flag. I was like, well, I guess that's helpful if it's yellow there. Yeah. But interesting. So shout out to the Sphere. Can't wait to see how it continues to, really be involved in future F1 races.
There were so many good marketing moments this weekend, or sponsorship announcements, or just like things in general that like scratched the marketing itch in my brain that makes me so happy that I can't believe I only wrote down one.
You're
like I
so
only have
overwhelmed.
My P1. Yes, I was so overwhelmed, and what my P1 is was so head and shoulders beyond everyone else that like I think I was just like when I was doing this earlier.
Okay, well, I have it an honorable mention and a full podium, so we can start. I'll rapid fire my P3, P2, and then we can see what the thing that stood out to you amongst absolutely every single marketing extravaganza thing that happened this weekend in Vegas.
I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out.
So
what's your P3?
My P3 is Lando's helmet collab with Mischief.
I didn't realize his helmet was a collab.
Right. So fun fact about me, I am obsessed with the Mischief company. We don't have time to explain like their entire deal and why they exist and just all of their drops and stuff, but it's on my bucket list to one day own one of the things that they do in their drops. I'm very confused as to how like the snake helmet is tied to Mischief, because it doesn't necessarily feel like what their brand does and everything, because it's usually like a satirical joke and not snakes in the desert. But interesting.
Which feels very on the nose.
Yeah, it feels very on the nose, but Lando and Mischief seem like a really good pairing together, so I'm sure there will be more. I got a notification from the Mischief app. I was like, this isn't a drop, this is telling me to look at Lando's helmet.
I meant to say when we did our favorite helmets that Lando Norris's helmet was my honorable mention. I thought it was very cool, and I liked that he didn't go casino. He chose a different option.
Yeah.
All right, what's your P2?
My P2 is the Rolling Stones and Aston Martin collab. Yeah, it is. What an incredible pairing of having their logo all throughout the garage, on the livery, on like just the helmets on the wall, promoting their new album. Oh, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that almost ended up on my list, but really everything was trumped by this P1, which all I wrote here was a Lewis Hamilton racing event. Because Lewis Hamilton ruled this weekend. So he did a pop-up shop for his Plus 44 line that had a mascot walking around, and like, you guys might not have been listening since the Miami GP episode to know that like there's really very few things in this world that Nicole and I both love more than a mascot. If you put a mascot somewhere, we are going to get hyped. Then he was announced as being a part of Fortnite now with Roscoe. Then he also announced that he's going to be a part of Rocket League. And then he did a collab with Race Weekend magazine, which is just a really cool company. And then on top of that, he did a bar for his new non-alcoholic spirit line, Almave. And he went to the bar and he made drinks. And like it was a Lewis Hamilton racing event. Nothing else mattered. So by the time I got to P2 after writing Lewis Hamilton racing event, I just went, okay, I don't know what else to talk about.
Yeah, you could have done the whole thing. My P1 is the Fortnite. I mean, Roscoe is in Fortnite. Nothing else really matters. But I do think it is really important for me to mention my honorable mention because it's a marketing thing that worked. I did buy the Valtteri Bottas butt calendar. So I'll keep you posted when that arrives. And it's for charity, but it worked.
That was deserving of the P1, even though it was an honorable mention. I am so glad you bought this because, like, you are the target audience for this because of how much you love VB and you love silly marketing things. And, like, yes, 100% yes. I now need to come up with a new Alfa Romeo point for our Yellow Sector notes, but I don't care because I am so excited. And I know Nicole will do an unboxing when she gets it for social media. So at Gridwalk Show.
Stay tuned to that.
The Abu Dhabi GP gave off such "can we go home now" vibes. Like, it really felt like everyone was hungover from Vegas. We're done with the season. Even Red Bull and Max Verstappen were just like, I won this thing ages ago. Can we all go home now? There weren't like sparkly finale vibes to it. So this is my podium of quotes and things that happened that gave off "can we go home now" vibes. So I have two honorable mentions. Honorable mention one is Ted Kravitz in his Ted's Notebook segment. He said, "Goodbye W14 and good riddance. You were an awful car and didn't win any races. I don't think it even deserved P2."
Wow, that's powerful and incredible. And he's right. Well, I like
He's
having
so on the nose. Yeah. I pulled all the data already for the team review, and the Mercedes definitely should not be in P2. It says more about the other teams than Mercedes for sure. But I felt like Ted summed it up. Honorable mention number 2, Lewis Hamilton in a post-race interview. "I'm not particularly looking forward to anything related to next year at the moment. Just looking forward to tomorrow." And his tomorrow, by the way, Lewis Hamilton did 0 postseason testing. So his tomorrow was going home. He was just excited to go home.
He wanted vacation. He was ready.
He was done. It's like, I don't want to drive this shitbox anymore. Moving on. All right, my actual podium. P3, Toto post-quali. "I'm fed up with having to explain why it didn't go well. I'm happy that this was the last qualifying of the season, and we're going to come with a new car next year."
I'm fed up hearing Toto having to explain. So, same.
Yep. P2, Ferrari telling Charles he's not allowed to do donuts.
What a buzzkill. Big buzzkill.
That man did everything in his power to try to get P2 in the constructors. He just wanted to fling the car around and have some fun, and Ferrari said no in a panicky voice, and it made me so sad for him. Everyone on Ferrari just wanted to go home, and it made me sad for Charles.
Yeah, it was the... What did we get? P3. Ah, F. Burnouts? No. Oh, it's like... Charles gets to do nothing fun.
No. Right. That season that man had, and you didn't even let him do some fun donuts on the grid. Like, let him have fun in the rocket ship. He really doesn't like driving. All right, P1, the most "can we go home now" moment of the weekend actually happened pre-race. And it was Lewis Hamilton saying, "I'm definitely excited to get the season over and done with, if I'm really honest."
Feel ya. I feel you, bro.
It wrapped the whole thing in a bow. He's like, whatever. Can I go home? He was done. I was done. We're all done. At least the W14 was pretty.
And now the W15 is not going to be black, and I'm going to be sad, but hopefully it'll be fast.
It better be. It better be black at this point. Like, it's the only thing that brought me joy all season.
You have to take it back.
At least the car was pretty. I have not been told a single thing about Nicole's podium. She won't even tell me what her podium is. So I'm very excited.
So my race weekend podium has absolutely nothing to do with the race weekend, because my podium is my favorite months from the boat ass calendar. And
Oh my gosh, it arrived.
If you were not watching on YouTube, I have cut out little peach emojis to put over Valtteri Bottas's butt to make this friendly for families, I guess. I don't know. Monetary
Friendly for
we don't make
YouTube.
money on this. Like, yeah, we don't need this to be censored. So I did put little peaches on all of the pictures that I plan to share, so there's no actual butts.
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad it arrived. It arrived so quickly.
I was shocked. A package arrived. It was all in like Dutch. And my parents were like, "What is this?" And I said, "Something." And I walked away. I'm not going to open this in front of my parents. So
they're gonna be like, Nicole, why'd you order a calendar of a Finnish man's butt?
I actually then showed it to my mom, and she thought it was absolutely hysterical. And she also says he has a nice butt. So
how could you not think it's hysterical? It's the best product of the year. Oh my goodness.
Over
Okay,
Aspen,
what's your
Colorado. Okay, I have an honorable mention.
Of course.
I have to do this so carefully because I don't want to like accidentally show a butt. So my honorable mention is the month of June, not because it's my birthday, but it's Valtteri on a bike. And this is a time where Brad and I did not get to share a story about our trip to Austin last year, where we're just casually walking around Austin, trying to cross the street, and the two of us almost get hit by two people on bikes. We cross the street, and Brandon's like, "That was VB that almost hit us on bikes." I had no idea. Completely missed. VB and Tiff, there they go. Oh. So my honorable mention,
Yep.
naked VB on a bike. For the
And
men.
I want to be very clear that they were definitely listening to the rules of the road, and I don't think that we were ever at risk of getting hit in the crosswalk, but there was a moment of panic as they broke like very late. He's a late breaker on the bike too.
And I would have been honored to get hit by VB on a bike. So that's my honorable mention just for that story.
That looks like... I just can't get over the fact that he's naked on a bike, because that seems really uncomfortable.
Oh, wow. Just you wait. My P3
Okay.
is January. Because
Oh, my birthday.
your birthday, and he's just hugging a giant bear. A giant big bear, and he's full on hugging it. And there are tan lines of his like racing, of like his bike singlet that you could just see like around his back. So shout out to January. Happy birthday, Brianna. You get some bear action of his bare butt and a bear. P2
I can't breathe.
is October. We are nakedly carving pumpkins. VB is sitting at a kitchen table. You would think he's like surprised, like someone caught him in the act of nakedly carving a jack-o'-lantern. Unbelievable. This one was almost my P1.
This is, I don't know, I'm shocked that it's not.
Don't worry. My
Over.
P1 will make
Oh my
so
God.
much sense.
This is my favorite thing. Oh my gosh.
So, after Austin, I was incredibly disappointed because there was no Horsey McHorse. But don't worry, in July, VB was on not an actual horse, but a little kid, horse head on a stick, in the middle of the wilderness, fully naked. So shout out to July. And VB on what I've dubbed Horsey McHorsestick. And
if this man ever leaves the grid, I will be devastated because this type of like energy is just so crucial to be on the Formula One grid. Like, we would miss him so much. I love post Mercedes VB.
He's living his best life. I can't wait to show you the rest of this, not for the filming of things. If anyone's interested in seeing the other months, can definitely, we can bring this back out. But you'll probably catch this behind me for the next
I think you should.
year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you should hang it up in your background and just flip the months and move the peach.
But I'm gonna have to. But then it's also like, will I have to remember to put the peach up? I feel like I should have it removed in my daily life. But then if there's, we're gonna get in trouble if we leave this up behind me. But it's a fun little game. So thanks, VB. This is a great idea. Can't wait for next year's.